Chapter 1124. Seeing Jia Jinyan's surprised expression, Xiaofan explained simply, "This technique of mine is a unique skill of my family. It can soothe the internal organs, relax the meridians, and promote blood circulation. The effect is very fast." "Oh." Jia Jinyan nodded his head, not fully understanding. Then, he thought of his own matters. He quickly grabbed Xiaofan's hand and said eagerly, "Hero Xiao, I know that your strength is definitely above mine. Now that the Jia family is in trouble, can I ask you to help me clean up the family and get rid of this unfilial son, Jia Yubian? Then, you can save Mu Sun safely. The Jia family can only rely on him in the future. You don't have to say this. I will naturally go and save him. After all, he is my best friend." Xiaofan smiled and continued to massage Jia Jinyan as he spoke unhurriedly. "That's great. Then. Jia Jinyan was overjoyed and wanted to ask Xiaofan to set off immediately. However, Xiaofan didn't seem to be in a hurry, so Jia Jinyan didn't know what to say at the moment. Xiaofan said indifferently, "Everything has its priorities. Right now, the extravasated blood in your body is blocked, and it has already affected your heart meridian. I have to get all the extravasated blood out of your body first. Otherwise, with your current condition, I'm afraid you won't be able to hold on for long. You are Jia Muzin's grandfather. I can't just leave you to die, can I? If Jia Muzin knew that I didn't care about his grandfather's safety, he would definitely blame me." Jia Jinyan closed his eyes, gritted his teeth, and nodded. Although he was still very worried about Jia Muzin's safety, Xiaofan really didn't lie. He knew his own body the best. It was indeed at a critical juncture, and he had no choice but to save him. The only thing he could do now was to let Xiaofan massage him first. After he got a little better, he would ask Xiaofan to think of a way to deal with Jia Yubian and the helper he invited. At the same time, in the Jia family's hall. On the mahogany chair that originally belonged to Jia Jinyan, Jia Yubian was sitting leisurely with his legs crossed. In his heart, he was fantasizing about how he would manage the family's business in the future. He was also calculating how much spirit jade he would need to use to exchange for a peak-grade medicinal pill for Jia Huiyan to mend his dantian. Then, he would let Jia Huiyan inherit the position of family head. After that, he would retreat behind the scenes and control the other affairs of the family. At that time, with power in his hands, wouldn't he be able to do whatever he wanted? "Jia Yubian, I think that Xiaofan is already here." Just as Jia Yubian was feeling complacent, the black-clothed leader who was with him before suddenly walked in from the door with a solemn expression and said in a deep voice. Who's here?" Jia Yubian was pulled out of his fantasy. He was in a bad mood and asked subconsciously. The leader of the men in black glared at him and continued, "Just now, a disciple of the sect came to report to me that the two men who were guarding the other members of the Jia clan suddenly lost their signal. I suppose they have been killed by Xiaofan. Let's go and meet him first." "What? Killed? Elder Chen, didn't you say before that they would have no problem dealing with Xiaofan? How could they be killed?" Jia Yubian finally heard Xiaofan's name clearly. He was so scared that he almost fell off the chair. After he stood up with great difficulty, Jia Yubian's face darkened and he reprimanded loudly, "Are these biohumans that you Awakening Heaven sect have researched reliable? I invested a lot of money in them. How could they be killed by Xiaofan so easily?" Jia Yubian was very shocked at this time. He had been secretly cooperating with Awakening Heaven sect for many years behind Jia Jinyan's back. Many private, under-the-table transactions were jointly promoted by the two parties. There had never been any mistakes. This operation was the same. Previously, Elder Sun had vowed to him that he would do his best to ensure that Jia Yubian took the position of Jia clan's family head. Elder Sun had also specially asked Elder Chen to bring a team of biohumans to assist. Unexpectedly, two of them had died so easily. How could Jia Yubian not be anxious and angry? What? Are you doubting the strength of our Awakening Heaven sect? Elder Chen raised the corner of his mouth and glanced at Jia Yubian with disdain. Don't forget, it was you who cried and begged us to help. Now, only 2 of our sect's toys have died. You have already begun to question the ability of Awakening Heaven sect? It seems that your trust in Awakening Heaven sect is only a so-so. When I return this time, I will report to sect leader Situ and re-evaluate your loyalty to Awakening Heaven sect. This. Elder Chen, I didn't mean that. Don't misunderstand. I just think that Xiao Chen is very cunning. Even Jia Jinyan, that old B***starred, can't do anything to him. That's why I'm a little worried. I'm afraid that you will also suffer in his hands. After all, we have already come this far. We can't take it lightly and fall in the hands of this guy. Jia Yubian couldn't help but shiver and quickly explained with a humble face. Humph. He's just a kid who still smells of his mother's milk. What's there to be afraid of? Elder Chen impatiently waved his hand and said, Enough. Don't say such useless things. Hurry up and bring Jia Musen along. We will be heading over immediately. Glaring fiercely at Jia Yubian, Elder Chen couldn't be bothered to talk with him anymore. He directly walked out the door and waved to the other black-clothed men. He quickly ran towards Jia Musen's courtyard. Seeing that Elder Chen didn't pursue the matter any further, Jia Yubian let out a sigh of relief. He walked over to the bound Jia Musen and gave him a heavy kick. Jia Musen had been in a clear-headed state the entire time. Therefore, he had heard every word of the conversation between Jia Yubian and Elder Chen. Even though he had been kicked, he still looked at Jia Yubian with a mocking expression. Jia Yubian glared at him and fiercely said, It's all your fault, you little brat. You only know how to do bad things. Of all the people you could have brought back, you just had to bring back trouble like Xiao Chen. Not only did I fail to make Hui Yan the patriarch, but I also wasted so much effort fawning over this and that. In a moment, I will deal with you and Xiao Chen. It can also be considered as helping my son vent his resentment. Hee, keep dreaming. With Xiao Chen's strength, getting rid of the few of you is a piece of cake. Just you wait. It won't be long before you and Jia Huiyan will pay the price for everything you've done today. Jia Musen didn't show the slightest bit of fear as he coldly retorted. From his point of view, since Xiao Chen could easily deal with 2 black-clothed men, the rest would definitely not be a problem. Jia Yubian was simply seeking his own death. Ha ha ha. You can continue to talk big. In any case, after today, you won't have the chance to talk anymore. Now, I will let you talk to your heart's content. Jia Yubian didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed and gave Jia Musen another kick. Then, he picked him up and chased after Elder Chen and the others. Chapter 1125. Quickly arriving at Jia Musen's courtyard, Elder Chen looked around vigilantly. He didn't find any trace of Xiao Chen, but he did see 2 black clothes on the ground. The style of the clothes was very familiar, and it should belong to the 2 biohumans that were killed. But what was strange was that the 2 corpses were gone. Apart from the 2 black clothes on the ground, the courtyard was empty, and there was nothing else in it. Elder Chen couldn't help but feel puzzled. He couldn't figure out what Xiao Chen was up to. Why did he deliberately take off their clothes after killing them? Could it be that this Xiao Chen had some strange hobbies? Feeling a slight chill for no reason, Elder Chen subconsciously tightened his clothes. Jia Yubian also arrived very quickly. Although he was very arrogant on the phone, he still felt a sense of fear when he thought about facing Xiao Chen. Therefore, he didn't dare to get too close. He only held Jia Musen tightly in his hand, and was prepared to use him as a shield at any time. Xiao Chen. Stop hiding and quickly get out of the room. Elder Chen threatened loudly, otherwise, I will let Jia Yubian slowly kill Jia Muzan first, then send people in and kill all the Jia family members inside. Although his tone was very tough, Elder Chen actually didn't dare to rush into the room rashly. He was afraid that Xiao Chen had installed some kind of mechanism inside, and it would easily cause him to lose people meaninglessly. After waiting for a while, just when Elder Chen was starting to get a little impatient, Xiao Chen finally walked out unhurriedly with a sloppy appearance. Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Jia Muzan was unscathed and had only suffered some superficial injuries. He had been at a critical juncture of treating Jia Jinyan's injuries, so he had been delayed. Moving his eyes away from Jia Muzan, Xiao Chen raised his head and saw 7 men in black standing behind Elder Chen. Their expressions and aura were exactly the same as the 2 men in black killed by Flame of the Underworld. Although his expression didn't change, Xiao Chen's heart was numb at this time. Even if Flame of the Underworld could kill 2 more, he might not be able to deal with the remaining 5 men in black even if he relied on the Elder Heaven Ancestor's possession. What's more, there was a man in front who seemed to be the leader, who had been staring at him covetously. In addition, there was not a single person in the room behind Xiao Chen who could help. Although Jia Jinyan's injuries were no longer a problem, his vitality was greatly damaged and his body was weak. Currently, his strength had not recovered yet, so even if he forced himself to come out, he would only be a hindrance. Not to mention Jia Yuto and Jia Tuyao, their cultivations were way too low, and they were as timid as mice. They only knew how to hide in the room, and they would probably wet their pants before the fight even started. Thousands of thoughts flashed across his mind, but in fact, it only lasted for a moment. Xiao Chen yawned and said with a bored face, "Why are you looking for me? Don't you know there are wounded people in the room? You're already dozens of years old, yet you still don't know the rules. Why are you making a racket in the middle of the night? What's wrong with you?" While talking unhurriedly, Xiao Chen's mind was spinning quickly, trying to figure out a way to deal with these men in black. Hee, Xiao Chen, I thought you didn't dare to come out, or ran away directly. I didn't know that you're so brave. Elder Chen crossed his arms in front of his chest, looked at Xiao Chen coldly and said scornfully. That's all? If that's all, I'm leaving. Xiao Chen impatiently waved his hand, turned around and walked straight into the room. Stop! Elder Chen shouted. When Xiao Chen turned around, he said gloomily, I didn't know that you're so young, but you do have some abilities. You actually killed 2 biohumans. But I'm sorry, your good luck ends here. I can give you another chance to leave your last words. Before you die, do you have anything else to say? Oh, I do. Do you dare to fight me one-on-one? When Xiao Chen heard the word biohuman, an idea suddenly flashed in his mind, and he thought of a solution. But he just said it perfunctorily. Ha ha ha. Are you scared out of your wits? This is Elder Chen from the Open Heaven sect. With such a noble identity, how could he fight one-on-one with an ant-like individual cultivator like you? Seeing that Xiao Chen didn't take the initiative to attack, Jia Yubian thought that he was scared. He was happy, and swaggered forward to provoke him. Oh, it's the elder from the Open Heaven sect. Xiao Chen didn't feel surprised, but he still put on a look of sudden realization. He looked at Jia Yubian seriously and said, Turtle Whip, I was wondering why you dared to rebel so impulsively. Usually, when you see me, you're like a cowardly quail. Why did you suddenly become so fierce? So it's because you have the Open Heaven sect supporting you. Jia Yubian snorted coldly, stared at Xiao Chen, and threatened, I advise you to quickly surrender. Maybe if Elder Chen is in a good mood, he will give you a quick. As he spoke, Jia Yubian's expression suddenly became a little confused, and his voice also became hesitant. Opposite him, Xiao Chen's eyes were shining with a strange light. It turned out that at this time, Xiao Chen had directly released his mental power to Jia Yubian, intending to control him first and carry out his plan. Jia Yubian, why are you talking nonsense with him? F***ck. Elder Chen glared at Jia Yubian fiercely. Just as he was about to order the biohumans behind him to kill Xiao Chen, he suddenly saw a figure flash in the corner of his eyes, and then a strong wind attacked him. Due to his keen awareness of the crisis, Elder Chen twisted his body at the critical moment and barely avoided the palm wind. Elder Chen originally wanted to scold Xiao Chen for being despicable and taking the opportunity to sneak attack. However, when he turned his eyes, he saw that Xiao Chen was standing in the same place without moving, looking at him with a smile. It's not Xiao Chen's sneak attack. Then who is it? Elder Chen only felt a chill rising from his back. He immediately turned his head and suddenly saw Jia Yubian's ferocious face, waving his palm at him again. Elder Chen was so shocked that he even forgot to dodge. He pointed at Jia Yubian and shouted, "Are you crazy? Stop it now." Bang! Before waiting for Elder Chen to finish speaking, Jia Yubian's palm was already on his chest. Luckily, Elder Chen used his demonic energy to protect his body in time, so he was able to resolve some of the damage. However, he was still hit by that force and took a few steps back. The blood in his lungs was churning, and he could not help but cough a few times. Jia Yubian's eyes were dull, and he did not give Elder Chen any chance to breathe, and he slapped him again. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. This time, Jia Yubian's palm wind was fierce and fierce. If it touched Elder Chen, he would definitely die or be crippled. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen was destined to be disappointed this time. Chapter 1126. Before Jia Yubian's palm could touch Elder Chen's chest, the figures of those black-clothed men flashed. One of them stood in front of Elder Chen and helped him take the hit. The rest of the black-clothed men simultaneously sent a palm strike towards Jia Yubian. Boom! After a loud sound, several large holes appeared on Jia Yubian's body. He was sent flying. He drew a parabola in the air and landed heavily on the ground not far away. Other than the fact that his body was covered in blood, Jia Yubian's eyeballs were about to pop out. He stared at the sky motionlessly. It was obvious that he was dead. Damn it! Fortunately, I set up a protective mechanism for these cyborgs. Otherwise, I would have died in Jia Yubian's hands today. Elder Chen stared at Jia Yubian's corpse and muttered to himself. His expression was extremely ugly. Elder Chen was puzzled by Jia Yubian's sudden betrayal. Elder Chen was a little puzzled. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't figure out why he would attack him for no reason. "Sigh, I didn't manage to kill you. What a pity." Xiao Chen shrugged his shoulders helplessly after watching the show. "What? So it was you who did it?" Elder Chen was stunned. His expression was one of shock. Xiao Chen was clearly standing at the same spot and did not move. How could he instruct Jia Yubian to suddenly betray him? Could it be that they had already hooked up? Forget it. The turtle whip is useless anyway. It's your turn now. If you have any last words, say them quickly. Xiao Chen laughed coldly. He once again released his mental strength and prepared to control Elder Chen's consciousness. Elder Chen's quick reflexes were once again highlighted. He immediately waved his hand at the men in black behind him. He pointed at Xiao Chen and shouted, "All of you, attack. Kill this little brat for me." Elder Chen's voice stopped abruptly. Elder Chen's consciousness had already been controlled by Xiao Chen. However, it was too late. The men in black had already received Elder Chen's order. They all activated their mental strength and fiercely rushed towards Xiao Chen. Holy sh*T. Why can't I find the control token? Xiao Chen quickly searched Elder Chen's body and his heart instantly turned cold. Initially, he had wanted to find a token on Elder Chen that could allow him to control cyborgs. Then, he would give Elder Chen a taste of his own medicine. However, he had not expected to find anything. Seeing that the biohumans were about to reach him, Xiao Chen did not have time to think of other solutions. He could only withdraw his mental strength and summon his flying sword. Then, he stepped on the flying sword and flew into the sky. Xiaochen had no other choice. If the other party only had 3 or 4 people, he could let the flames of the underworld kill 2 of them first, and then think of a way to deal with the rest. But now, there were 7 biohumans chasing after Xiaochen. Even the person who had just been hit by Jia Yubian's palm was extremely active as he followed behind, wanting to kill Xiaochen in one fell swoop. Since he could not think of a countermeasure for the time being, Xiaochen could only dodge into the sky. After all, the space on the ground was too small. As long as the 7 of them casually set up a formation, they would be able to seal off all directions. When that time came, he would have no way to escape. Elder Chen only felt that his mind had gone blank for a moment. Then, his body shook and he regained consciousness. Although he did not know what had happened just now, when he raised his head and saw Xiaochen riding the flying sword and dodging left and right in the sky, he felt very proud of himself. "Oh, Xiaochen, I didn't know that you had such a treasure." Elder Chen stared fixedly at the flying sword under Xiaochen's feet. A look of greed flashed in his eyes. Although he was already an elder of the Awakening Heaven sect, the flying sword was still a treasure in his imagination. Licking his lips, Elder Chen ordered the biohumans again, "All of you, knock this kid down. But be careful, don't hit the flying sword under his feet. This treasure is mine." After the biohumans received the order, they immediately activated 10% of their power and aimed at Xiaochen, who was flying in the air, and slapped their palms heavily. Although they did not have their own consciousness, they cooperated quite well. These people did not attack at the same time. Instead, they were automatically divided into 2 groups. When the first group's palms missed, the second group would immediately fill in. On the one hand, Xiaochen had to control the flying sword. On the other hand, he had to divert his attention to avoid the whistling strength. He could not help but complain in his heart, but he could not think of a solution. He could only stay in the air. For a moment, he was in a difficult situation and was surrounded by danger. "Master, be careful." Just as Xiaochen dodged one of the strengths, the other 2 strengths came one after another. Seeing that Xiaochen could no longer resist, Elder Chen, who was below, showed a look of excitement. At this time, an Xiaoma suddenly drilled out of his body and rushed toward the strengths. Xiaochen was slightly stunned and immediately took a few steps back. After seeing that an Xiaoma had easily resolved the 2 palms, he immediately felt that the pressure was greatly reduced. He said happily, "Amazing, Xiaoma. You have also made a contribution." And Xiaoma did not stop. He continued to shuttle back and forth in the air, blocking all the strengths that were attacking Xiaochen. While defending, he said to Xiaochen, "Master, can you let me kill 2 biohumans first? Leave the rest to me." With an Xiaoma's help to block the attacks, Xiaochen suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. When he heard what an Xiaoma said, he could not help but be overjoyed. He immediately asked, "Huh? Do you have a way? I have just studied it. There should not be too much of a problem." Although his words were cautious, an Xiaoma's tone was very confident. "Very good." Xiaochen was about to open his mouth to let the fire of the underworld in his body take action. Suddenly, he rolled his eyes and thought of something else. He quickly said, "Nethery, don't do anything for the time being. I still have some questions to ask that fool below. Wait for my orders." "Yes, master." The fire of the underworld agreed. He secretly prepared himself and waited for the order to attack at any time. After everything was settled, Xiaochen rode the flying sword and slowly landed on the ground. He looked at Elder Chen coldly. "I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it." Elder Chen saw that Xiaochen had landed, so he waved his hand and asked the biohumans to stop attacking. He raised his head and squinted at the black shadow of an Xiaoma in the sky. He sighed and said, "Not only do you have a treasure like a flying sword, but you also have such a magical helper. I am really starting to envy you, Xiao Chen. Comparisons are odious. You don't have this kind of ability. It is only right that you look up to me. Xiao Chen sneered coldly. Elder Chen did not seem to be offended by Xiao Chen's sarcasm. He asked with a smile, in that case, why don't we make a deal? Give me the flying sword under your feet and tell me where you got that black fog from. Then, I will spare your life. Of course, Elder Chen would not be so kind. Xiao Chen was a disaster. He had to be killed. Chapter 11:27. However, since he now had the upper hand, Elder Chen did not mind spending more time to figure out how to use the treasures in Xiao Chen's hands. After he had squeezed out all the remaining value from Xiao Chen, he would kill him directly. Oh? Can you really spare my life and not kill me? Xiao Chen seemed to be quite tempted and confirmed again. Of course, a man of his word cannot be taken back. If I say I won't kill you, I definitely won't kill you. Elder Chen was secretly delighted. He thought to himself that young people were indeed impatient and fell into the trap so quickly. Xiao Chen pondered for a long time and seemed to have finally made a decision. He slapped the table and said, "All right. It just so happens that I have some questions to ask you." What questions? Elder Chen was overjoyed that he could obtain the treasures. When he heard the second half of Xiao Chen's sentence, he could not help but ask subconsciously. Xiao Chen smacked his lips and pointed at the black-clothed man. I have to say, these biohumans are indeed quite powerful. However, I am a little puzzled. You don't seem to have a token to control them, but they can all listen to your orders. What is going on? Token? You actually know about the token? Elder Chen was slightly stunned at first, but he quickly reacted. Perhaps Xiao Chen had seen another type of test subject before, so he knew about the existence of the token. Seeing that Xiao Chen nodded calmly and had a thirsty look on his face, Elder Chen did not put up too much of a guard against this guy who was about to die. He explained calmly, these are all high-level biohumans. They can be controlled remotely. I can give them orders by sending signals from a distance, so they will listen to my orders. When he recalled that Jia Huiyan and Tang Tang were quite far apart, and without the token, Tang Tang would be restless and do all kinds of uncontrollable actions, Xiao Chen suddenly realized. After all, it was easy to be limited by the distance when using the token to control the biohumans. For example, when he sneaked into the Jia family this time, he left all the women at the periphery and deliberately left the token to Cheng Menjing and the others beside Tang Tang. He was afraid that after he left with the token, Tang Tang would go crazy inexplicably because she was too far away from the token. However, out of caution, Xiao Chen still asked, isn't it just a token? How advanced could it be? Don't try to fool me. TSK, what do you know? Elder Chen looked at Xiao Chen as if he was looking at a country bumpkin. He said with extreme disdain, the token has an area of effect. The holder can only control it at a close distance, and there is a possibility that he or she will be in danger. Now that I don't have the token, I can continue to control them even if I am far away. Not only can you ensure your own safety, but you can also explore all kinds of secret passages. As he spoke, Elder Chen's expression suddenly changed. He realized that he had let the cat out of the bag. He immediately stopped talking and looked at Xiao Chen with a vigilant expression. Seeing his expression, Xiao Chen's mind turned quickly. This guy said that there was a secret passage? Could it be that they were going to use these biohumans to explore some dangerous places? So they had to control the actions of the biohumans when they were not present? While thinking quickly, Xiao Chen pretended that he did not understand. He asked with a puzzled expression, the strength of the Open Heaven sect is so high. Why are you afraid of safety? Is there any secret passage in the inner martial arts world that you don't dare to enter? You don't need to know this. Elder Chen glanced at Xiao Chen and said impatiently, "All right, since your problem has been solved, then hand over the flying sword. And the black fog in the air, where did you get it from? Hurry up and tell me the truth." If it was not for the things in his hands, Elder Chen would not have bothered to talk nonsense with him. This brat was young, but he had a lot of treasures. "I can't remember this. You have to let me think about it first and recall it." Xiao Chen knew Elder Chen's little plan. Naturally, he would not hand over the flying sword and Xiaoma. So, he deliberately pretended to be polite and played the Tai Chi Dao. Elder Chen glared fiercely at Xiao Chen and shouted fiercely, "Hurry up. Don't think that you are safe with that thing taking the bullet for you. Believe it or not, I can still kill you in minutes." "Oh, I don't believe it." Xiao Chen laughed. He circulated his mental cultivation method and flew towards Elder Chen, sending a palm strike at him. "Brat, you are courting death." Elder Chen was fooled. He immediately retreated and shouted angrily. Xiao Chen was too lazy to pay attention to him. He directly ordered the flame of the underworld and Xiaoma, "Little Nethery, go and kill the 2 biohumans on the left. And Xiaoma, I will leave the other 5 to you." "Yes, master." The flame of the underworld immediately drilled out of Xiao Chen's body and divided into 2 groups to attack the biohuman on the left. And Xiaoma descended from the air and rushed toward the biohuman on the right. "You! Damn! What is this?" Elder Chen was about to command the biohumans to attack Xiao Chen when he suddenly saw 2 groups of bluish-purple flames coming out of nowhere and pouncing toward the 2 biohumans on the side. The black shadow in the air also swooped down and directly drilled into the head of one of the biohumans. He was shocked. "You don't need to know. You just need to know that these things don't belong to you." Xiao Chen smiled slightly and continued to approach Elder Chen step by step. Elder Chen was a little flustered and involuntarily took a few steps back. He quickly waved to the other 4 biohumans and said, "You guys, quickly kill this brat." However, to Elder Chen's surprise, as soon as he finished speaking, the black shadow quickly ran out of the biohuman's head and quickly drilled into the heads of the other 4 biohumans. It was like a swimming fish, extremely fast. After the 5 biohumans were touched by the black shadow, they seemed to not hear Elder Chen's orders. Their bodies kept swaying, and it didn't take long for their arms to drop. They stopped moving forward and stood in place blankly, not moving at all. The other 2 biohumans had already been engulfed by the strange flame and were burned to ashes in a breath's time. Only 2 black clothes were left behind. They fluttered in the wind for a while before gently landing on the ground. The 2 black clothes formed a beautiful contrast with the other 2 black clothes not far away. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Elder Chen was shocked. He finally understood how the 2 biohumans had died before. Panicking, Elder Chen ordered the other cyborgs to attack Xiao Chen again. However, unlike before, the cyborgs did not react at all. They remained rooted to the ground like idiots. Elder Chen was really dumbfounded this time. However, the current situation did not allow him to think too much. As there were no biohumans to stop him, Xiao Chen immediately slammed his palm after approaching. The palm wind was like a hot knife through butter, making a whooshing sound. Chapter 11:28. In desperation, Elder Chen could only bite the bullet and wave his palm to meet the attack. Bang! The 2 of them collided with each other's palms. Elder Chen had obviously underestimated Xiao Chen's strength. In addition to the sudden change, he was caught off guard and could not resist with all his strength. He was directly blasted away. He opened his mouth in the air and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, he fell heavily beside Jia Yubian's corpse. Xiao Chen only took a step back and stared at Elder Chen coldly. Even his expression did not change at all. "Master, these 5 biohumans have been possessed by me. Now, they are no longer controlled by the open heavenly door. You can directly order them to do anything, but it is only temporary. And Xiaomao came out of the head of the last biohuman and came in front of Xiao Chen to report respectfully. As in Xiaomao was the same as the flame of the underworld, his level had also increased with Xiao Chen's breakthrough. Now, he could go back and forth to possess them. Therefore, he was able to control all the mindless biohumans in a short period of time. However, it was a pity that the brains of these biohumans had been destroyed. Therefore, An Xiaomao could only leave a trace of his primordial spirit's mental strength in their brains so that they could be controlled for a short period of time. When the mental strength dissipated, it would no longer have any effect. Oh? Is this for real? Is it that fun? Xiao Chen's interest was piqued. He gave the cyborgs a few inexplicable commands in succession. Sure enough, they all obeyed his commands. Some were jumping around blindly, some were running around the courtyard, and some were twisting and dancing. For a moment, the courtyard was filled with demons dancing chaotically. It was a dazzling sight. Elder Chen was lying on the ground. When he saw this scene, his face could not help but turn pale. He could not figure out how the biohumans that his sect had painstakingly developed could be controlled by Xiao Chen in just a few breaths. What kind of monster was he? Xiao Chen controlled the biohumans to play around for a while before he remembered something. He asked An Xiaomao curiously with his divine sense, "This thing is quite interesting. However, you said that I can only control it for a while? What will happen if my control over them fails? Will they be controlled by the open heavenly door again? I won't." And little demon was very proud of his masterpiece. I have completely cut off their connection with open heaven gate. Now their brains have been destroyed. It won't be long before my trace of spiritual power dissipates. They will become fools. Although they still have good strength, they can only stand there in a daze. Oh, I see. Well done. Xiao Chen praised him from the bottom of his heart. Then, he ordered the group of biohumans to follow him and come before Elder Chen in a grandiose manner. Elder Chen looked at all the biohumans who had been listening to his orders just now. Now, they were standing beside Xiao Chen and looking down at him. Cold sweat rolled down his back, and for a moment, his legs were so weak that he could not even get up. Xiao Chen looked down at him from above and said unhurriedly, "Elder Chen, it's really been hard on you. You've sent me so many test subjects. I won't say anything unnecessary. Now, I want to ask you some questions. You better answer them honestly, otherwise." Xiao Chen did not finish his sentence. Instead, he raised his eyebrows and made an expression that said, "You know what I mean, don't. Don't hit me. I had no choice. If it wasn't for the sect asking me to come, I wouldn't want to get involved in this mess. I don't have a good impression of Jia Yubian. I was just forced by the order." Elder Chen had no choice but to beg for mercy in a low voice. Looking at the biohumans, who were originally controlled by the open heavenly door, all turned around and stared at him with pressure. Elder Chen felt quite upset. "Stop talking nonsense. As far as I know, the open heavenly door has developed a potion that can control other people's thoughts. I believe you should be very clear about this matter, right?" Xiao Chen looked at Elder Chen with narrowed eyes and asked coldly. I know. Elder Chen subconsciously glanced at the biohumans and thought to himself, isn't that the species before these biohumans? First, they were controlled by the potion, then commanded by the token. They were the first generation of biohumans. Very good. Do you have the antidote for this potion? Do you have it with you? Hurry up and hand it over. Xiao Chen bent down and glared at Elder Chen as he asked fiercely. This. I know about the antidote. However, those potions are kept in the sect's laboratory and are strictly guarded. Without sect leader Situ's order, no one dares to use them on their own, let alone bring them with them. Elder Chen explained with a bitter face. Although he didn't know what Xiao Chen wanted the antidote for, he didn't dare to ask. He could only answer honestly, feeling uneasy in his heart. If that's the case, then aren't you worthless? Xiaochen straightened his body and raised his eyebrows. He was prepared to command the biohumans to kill Elder Chen. When Elder Chen heard what Xiaochen said, he was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He thought to himself that his life was over. He didn't plan to put up any meaningless resistance, so he closed his eyes tightly and waited for the next attack. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, Elder Chen's heart was in his throat for a long time, but he didn't see the whooshing sound of the palm strike. He couldn't help but open his eyes in astonishment, only to see Xiaochen looking at him with a complicated expression. It turned out that before he gave the order, Xiaochen suddenly thought of Miss Xing. He remembered that this fellow had said that he was only following the sect's instructions. Wasn't that the same as Miss Xing? When he thought of this, Xiaochen couldn't help but feel sympathetic. He was silent for a while, then simply waved his hand and said, "Hurry up and get lost before I change my mind. Don't let me see you again." After saying this, Xiaochen didn't bother with Elder Chen anymore. Instead, he went to untie Jia Muzhen, then brought him back to the room and closed the door with a bang. The control time of the biohumans had also ended. At this moment, they were standing foolishly on the spot, no longer listening to Xiaochen's instructions. Elder Chen stared blankly at the tightly shut door. Just now, he thought that this fellow was going to kill him. However, when he heard the latter part of the sentence, he was stunned. What was going on? Wasn't Xiaochen too unfathomable? It was simply too strange. Although he was confused, Elder Chen still crawled up with a grunt. He didn't give up and tried to give orders to the biohumans that were standing still. After trying a few times, he confirmed that they were really useless. He could only sigh helplessly and choose to give up. Seeing that the door to Jia Muzhen's room was still tightly shut and silent, Elder Chen prepared to leave the Jia clan and return to Qi Tian's sect as soon as possible. When he walked to the side of Jia Yubian's corpse, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. He muttered to himself for a moment, looked around, and saw that there was no one around. Then, he secretly carried Jia Yubian's corpse and brought it back with him. When Jia Muzhen entered the room, he saw Jia Jinyan sitting on the sofa with his eyes closed. Although he didn't look too good, he was still in good spirits. Chapter 11:29. Jia Muzhen hurriedly walked over and asked about his well-being. "Grandpa, I'm back. I heard from Xiaochen that he had just given you a massage. How are you feeling now?" "I'm fine. This time, thanks to little friend Xiaochen's help, otherwise, the foundation established by the ancestors of the Jia family would have been destroyed." Jia Jinyan sighed and cast a grateful look at Xiaochen, but he felt very upset in his heart. Jia Yubian was so blatantly colluding with awakened sect. It was obvious that they had cooperated before. It was a pity that he didn't know anything and trusted him. He was really too muddle-headed. "No need to thank me. Jia Muzhen is my friend. Since he asked me, I will definitely help him to the end," Xiaochen said lightly. Jia Jinyan's injury had not yet healed, but he had heard the movement outside the room. He nodded and asked, "Has that disobedient son who betrayed the family been executed?" "Yes, Grandpa. Jia Yubian is dead." Among the helpers he invited, except for Elder Chen of Awakened Sect, most of them were killed by Xiaochen. Jia Muzhen answered simply. He felt that his grandfather should understand Xiaochen's means, so he didn't explain much. Jia Jinyan nodded slightly and didn't speak. Jia Yuto couldn't help but angrily criticize Xiaochen. "It's not that I want to blame you, but how could you let that Elder Chen go so easily? This kind of person should be arrested and tortured. Then, call the people of Awakened Sect to the Jia family and confront us face to face. Let's see how they will deny it." He had been standing by the window and peeping, so Jia Yuto clearly saw that Xiaochen let Elder Chen go. He was very puzzled as to why Xiaochen would do this. At this time, he couldn't help but ask. You talk too much nonsense. Why weren't you so active when Jia Yubian brought people to injure Grandpa? Jia Muzan angrily glared at Jia Yuto, then turned to Xiao Chen and said, Xiao Chen, ignore him. Previously, he was threatened by Jia Yubian, and he was so scared that he forgot his surname. What a good-for-nothing. Jia Muzan's disgust towards Jia Yuto was not any less than Jia Yubian's. When Jia Yubian was rebelling and arresting people, this guy saw the people from Awakening Heaven sect and was immediately scared to the point that his legs went soft. He immediately flattered Jia Yubian, and his flattering appearance made Jia Jinyan unbearably angry. If Jia Yubian didn't bother to pay attention to him, Jia Yuto might have already stood on Jia Yubian's side and attacked the family. Therefore, Jia Yubian hated Jia Yubian very much and was not polite when he talked to him. Oh, it's nothing. After listening to the trash talk, I should go out and clean up the trash. Eldest Miss and the others are still hiding in the jungle. Jia, Xiao Chen said, Yun and, Jia, and said, Xiao and, Jia, Xiao, I. Xiao Chen stretched his back and ignored Jia Yuto's furious gaze. He greeted Jia Jinyan and walked into the courtyard. Who are you calling trash? Looking at Xiao Chen swaggering back, Jia Yuto was about to go crazy. He didn't expect that he would be ridiculed by Xiao Chen for no reason just because he raised a reasonable question. But he couldn't do anything to him, so he could only glare and sulk. Jia Muzan promised Xiao Chen and was about to leave when Jia Yuto suddenly found a target to vent his anger on. He frowned and said, Muzan, you're too outrageous. In any case, I am your elder. How can you use this kind of attitude to speak to me? Do you still have any concept of seniority? Alright, that's enough. Without waiting for Jia Muzan to refute, Jia Jinyan heavily slammed the table and stopped the two from arguing. Jia Muzan could only roll his eyes at Jia Yuto with a look of disapproval. Jia Yuto's old face turned red, but he couldn't speak and could only pant. Jia Jinyan didn't care too much and directly ordered, Muzan, take a few people and tidy up the courtyard and this room. After all, Xiao Chen is our Jia family's benefactor. We can't let him do this kind of rough work. Oh right, get someone to take out the best quality bird's nest and cook a sumptuous supper for Xiao Chen's friends to eat when they come back. Don't let them starve. Yes, Grandpa, I'll do it now. Jia Muzan immediately agreed. He gave a few instructions to the servants beside him and then led them out. Looking at Jia Yuto glaring at Jia Muzan's back with an exasperated expression, Jia Jinyan slightly shook his head. He only had 3 sons in his life. The eldest son colluded with outsiders in an attempt to rebel. The second son was a fence-sitter. The third son died for no reason. Alas, he didn't know what kind of sins he had committed in his previous life. If it wasn't for the fact that he had a grandson, Jia Muzan, who could be considered intelligent and had a wide network of friends, saving the Jia family from a crisis at a critical time, he would really be angered to death by these people. Yuto, bring some people here and tidy up the house. Throw away those things that are smashed or can't be used, and replace all the things that should be replaced. Otherwise, when the guests come later, they will laugh at us. Jia Jinyan sighed and ordered. Understood, father. Jia Yuto nodded. Although he was a little dissatisfied with Xiao Chen and Jia Muzan, he didn't dare to disobey his father's order. He could only busy himself with the arrangements. Jia Jinyan propped himself up and said to Jia Tuyao, who was beside him, Tuyao, help me back. When Xiao Chen and the others come back, they will still need to rest in this room. It's better not to disturb them. Okay, Grandpa, take care. Jia Tuyao responded as well. While holding Jia Jinyan's arm, they slowly walked towards the outside. His thoughts were the same as Jia Yuto's. Even if he was dissatisfied, he absolutely didn't dare to say it at this time. Wouldn't that be equivalent to asking for trouble? After Xiao Chen went out, he first led those silly biohumans to the dungeon and locked them up. He planned to use them for research in the future. After everything was done, he drove his flying sword to bring Qing Menjing and the others back. Just like that, Xiao Chen was busy until midnight. Only then did he bring Qing Menjing and the others back. Although the women didn't use their fists and legs, they had been worried about Xiao Chen's safety. Now that they knew that everything was safe and sound, they were finally relieved. Once they relaxed, they were a little tired. They casually ate a few mouthfuls of supper, lay on the bed, and fell asleep without even changing their clothes. However, Xiao Chen didn't dare to sleep directly. Instead, he released his divine sense to monitor the movements around the Jia family. Firstly, he was worried that after Elder Chen went back to report, the people of Awakening Heaven sect would not be satisfied, and once again gather the biohumans to retaliate. Chapter 1130. Secondly, he was worried about Tang Tang, who was a ticking time bomb. Xiao Chen was afraid that after he fell asleep, she would lose control and do something strange again. So, he simply stayed by her side and cultivated to recover his primordial qi. As the dust settled on Xiao Chen's side, Xing was in a state of confusion. It had been 2 days since they returned to Qi Tian's sect. Xing had been in a state of indecision. She even regretted it a little. Why did she agree to Xiao Chen's request so easily? Was it because she really liked Xiao Chen? That's impossible. What's so good about Xiao Chen? He's always thinking of tricks to tease me. Although he's very strong and handsome, but, oh my God. What the hell am I thinking? I don't care about helping that stinky Xiao Chen. He actually asked me to get such a dangerous thing. If I don't go, what can you do? Xing mumbled to herself as if she was trying to cheer herself up. At this moment, she was sitting in a pavilion in the garden. Feeling depressed and annoyed, she angrily threw her new phone on the table. However, she quickly picked it up and looked at it carefully. When she found that it wasn't broken, she heaved a sigh of relief. After her previous phone was broken, little chick Xing hadn't bought a new one. She had just gotten this new Apple Rose Gold phone yesterday, and she had successfully bought it through a special channel. Therefore, she treasured it very much. Not only did she ask the seller to paste a gorgeous diamond on the phone, but she also specially chose a very cute phone case. Little Xing, who are you talking to? Elder Son walked over and happened to hear Xing mumbling to herself. He couldn't help but look at her in confusion. No, I'm not talking. Xing was startled. She quickly stood up and replied in a slightly flustered manner. Elder Son looked at her doubtfully. Then, he looked at the diamond pasted on the phone and the cute cartoon case. He frowned slightly and said, "You got the new phone? Then hurry up and get ready. Tomorrow, we will go to the Jia family again and continue to monitor Xiao Chen's movements." He still wanted to go to the Jia clan? What excuse should I use to get close to Xiao Chen this time? He's a little suspicious and often hides in his room mysteriously. I have no way of approaching him. Little Miss Xing was startled and said with a bitter face. She had thought that she didn't have to work undercover around Xiao Chen anymore. She didn't expect that the task would come immediately. Helpless, she could only casually make up a lie in an attempt to make Elder Son retract his order. Think of a way yourself. Why don't you just tell him that you found a way to remove the poison in her body, and then lead him to a dangerous place, and then you can observe him in secret, said Elder Son impatiently. But, if he is really in danger, does he still need me to protect him? If I keep coming and going like this, he will definitely be suspicious of me. Maybe he won't even go. Miss Xing lowered her head and stammered. She thought to herself, Xiao Chen's current strength is so powerful that I don't have the ability to protect him even if I wanted to. Elder Son also had a headache. He shook his head and said, "There's no other way. Elder Chen's sneak attack on the Jia family has failed. It's that Xiao Chen's doing again. This fellow is really too troublesome. However, the sect leader doesn't allow me to kill him directly. Now that the Jia family's line of communication has been cut off, we have to think of another way. What? How could this be? Little Miss Xing suddenly raised her head and exclaimed, "Didn't Elder Chen bring many experts with him? How could they fail? That Xiao Chen is actually so powerful. What if I fail to frame him and get myself killed instead? Wouldn't I suffer a great loss?" Lady Xing did not know the inside story of this sneak attack. She also did not know that the people she had brought along were all cyborgs. She only heard that the people following Elder Chen were all venerable experts. Previously, she had been secretly worried for Xiao Chen and Tian Suruan. Therefore, when she heard this news, she could not help but be shocked. What do you mean by a loss? Do you still think that this is a business transaction? Elder Sun looked at little Miss Xing with a strange expression and said in a cold tone, "Little Xing, I realized that ever since you followed Xiao Chen, you seem to have become more and more strange. Not only did you not follow the orders of your superiors, you also became more and more impudent when speaking to me. Do you still remember your status?" I'm sorry, Elder Sun." Little Miss Xing felt the coldness in Elder Sun's voice and instantly trembled in fear. She hurriedly apologized. In fact, even she didn't realize that her originally cold and emotionless personality was slowly changing as she continued to interact with Xiao Chen. The stiff puppet that only knew how to listen to orders had gradually become an ordinary girl that was filled with all kinds of emotions. "Forget it, I won't punish you this time. Quickly go back to your room and pack up. We will leave tomorrow morning." Elder Sun coldly snorted and glanced at little Miss Xing thoughtfully. After coldly instructing her, he flicked his sleeves and left. After waiting for Elder Sun to leave, little Miss Xing let out a sigh of relief. She took her new phone and walked back to her room. Her mind was filled with random thoughts. After seeing Xiao Chen, how should I report to him? If he knew that I didn't manage to steal the information, would he kill me in a fit of anger? But even if I really steal the information, the risk is too great. If I'm discovered, it's very likely that I'll be detained. At that time, will I become like Tang Tang? Will I also be forcefully injected with the experimental drug? Will I become a puppet that has no consciousness other than killing people? What's the difference between me and a dead person? It seems that no matter what, I'm going to die this time. What should I do? What should I do? That night, a black shadow quietly snuck into the Qi Tian Sect's Research Institute. The figure easily avoided all kinds of surveillance equipment and guards. Very smoothly, he arrived at a room. He took out his phone and deftly turned on the flashlight function. Although the light of the flashlight wasn't very strong, it was still able to illuminate the surroundings of the room. At the same time, it also illuminated the face of the person in black. Impressively, it was little Miss Xing. For the entire afternoon and night, little Miss Xing struggled in her room for a long time. After repeatedly weighing the pros and cons, she finally made up her mind to help Xiao Chen steal the information. In any case, the risk of stealing the information was relatively small. Moreover, during her afternoon thinking, she suddenly thought of a good way. This way could ensure that even if she was discovered and caught, she wouldn't be punished too heavily. But if she didn't steal the information and directly went to find Xiao Chen, it would mean that she was going back on her previous promise to him. Chapter 1131. Xing had always felt that Xiao Chen's temper was hard to understand. If he found out, who knew what he would do? Furthermore, she couldn't bear to watch him every time. Furthermore, this was something she had personally promised him. If she didn't do it, she would feel as if she owed him a huge favor. After all, Xiao Chen had saved her life more than once. Xing remembered it in her heart. She had always wanted to find an opportunity to repay him. Since Xiaochen needed her help, she couldn't let him down, right? After thinking for a long time, Xing finally decided to wait until the dead of night. Then, she would steal some information from the laboratory and bring it to Xiaochen. After rummaging around for a while, Xing finally found information related to the experimental drug. When she saw the words, "control reagent" on the cover, she suppressed the excitement in her heart and flipped through a few pages. After confirming the contents, she returned the laboratory to its original state. Then, she took the information and phone and prepared to leave the laboratory. "Little Xing, what are you doing in the laboratory?" Xing had just stepped out of the room and was about to carefully close the door when Elder Sun's cold voice suddenly came from behind her. Xing was so scared that she trembled. She almost threw her phone and the information on the ground. "I'm asking you a question. What are you doing in the laboratory? What is that thing in your hand?" Elder Sun opened his mouth again and asked word by word. Little Miss Xing made a prompt decision. She stiffly turned around and stared blankly at Elder Sun and his subordinates. Then, without saying a word, she mechanically walked past them. From the looks of it, she was a mindless cyborg. "You! Stop her! Don't let her get away!" Elder Sun stared blankly at Xing as she walked past. He was stunned for a moment before he reacted. He hurriedly shouted and chased after her with his subordinates. Xing's figure was rigid, but her strides were large. In a short while, she had already walked quite a distance. She turned a deaf ear to Elder Sun's shouts. Elder Sun didn't expect Xing to be so arrogant. After he finally caught up with her, he blocked her way and angrily shouted, "Little Xing! Don't you know that trespassing into the laboratory is a capital offense? And you actually dared to steal the research materials from the laboratory. What are you trying to do?" It turned out that when Elder Sun gave the order to Xing Bingyao in the afternoon, he felt that her actions were a little strange. So, after he left, he sent someone to secretly monitor her every move. In the middle of the night, Elder Sun had just fallen asleep when his subordinates ran over to report that little Miss Xing had snuck into the laboratory and was currently stealing information. Elder Sun finally confirmed his suspicions and hurriedly brought his men over. Little girl Xing remained silent as if she didn't see Elder Sun and his group. Her eyes were blank as she continued to walk forward. Her hand tightly held onto the research document. In fact, this little girl's heart was about to jump out of her throat. When she was thinking about the plan of action at night, she had a flash of inspiration and just happened to think of this trick, pretending to be controlled. If he wasn't discovered when he was stealing the data, then everything would be fine. If he was discovered, then he would act like a robot and deliberately pretend that his mind was controlled by someone, and that was why he was stealing the research data. This trick was also inspired by Tang Tang. She had carefully observed Tang Tang's movements and behavior, and she had learned it very well. Although she didn't know if she could get away with it, she couldn't think of a better way at the moment. So, this was the only thing she could do. "Humph. You're still pretending to be dumb?" Elder Sun didn't think too much about it. He thought that Xing Bingyao was just pretending. Suddenly, he felt that his dignity had been seriously challenged. His lungs were about to explode. He immediately signaled his men behind him, "Everyone, go. Capture her and lock her in a cell. I want to see how long she can pretend for." "Yes, sir." Several venerable masters immediately nodded. They rushed forward and quickly restrained Xing Bingyao. At the same time, they took away the phone and the research document from her hand. Xing Bingyao first symbolically struggled a few times, but she still couldn't resist the strength of the venerable masters. Only when her hands and feet were tied with rope did she quietly stand still. However, she still had a blank expression on her face. Even when her things were taken away, she didn't show any signs of anxiousness. After angrily bringing Xing Bingyao to the interrogation room, Elder Sun used both carrot and stick on her. He tempted, threatened, and intimidated her. He used all the tricks he could think of. However, Xing Bingyao still didn't say a word. She still had that confused look on her face. She stared blankly at elder son's face, as if there was a flower on his face. After asking for more than an hour, elder son still got nothing. In the end, he was so angry that he rolled up his sleeves and prepared to torture Xing Bingyao personally. It was called torture, but in fact it was just using a whip dipped in salt water to whip Xing Bingyao a few times. However, elder son didn't dare to be too harsh, and he didn't dare to use his demonic energy. If he accidentally killed Xing Bingyao, then he wouldn't be able to get anything out of her. It would also be a waste of a cultivator talent. If it was an ordinary person being whipped by this kind of whip dipped in salt water, they might have already died from the pain. However, for a cultivator, especially a demon king great perfection powerhouse like Xing Bingyao, she might not be crushed to death even if she was placed under the wheels of a car, let alone being whipped. What's more, elder son didn't even dare to use his demonic energy. The pain on this superficial wound was just a piece of cake for Xing Bingyao. She wouldn't even move her eyes, let alone confess. For this point, elder son was naturally very clear in his heart, but apart from this method, he couldn't think of other torture methods. He could only treat it as a way to vent his anger. He whipped her a few more times, then he sat on the chair and sulked. After staring at Xing Bingyao fiercely for a while, elder son lowered his head and his eyes fell on the fancy and cute mobile phone and a pile of research materials on the table. Elder son suddenly stared at the mobile phone and thought for a while. This kind of experimental potion has only been used by a few people. Among these people, only Tang Tang has contact with Xiao Chen. Could it be that Xing Gongzi was instructed by Xiao Chen to steal this information? Thinking of this, elder son suddenly had an idea. He picked up Xing Bingyao's mobile phone and planned to check if there were any phone calls or text messages between her and Xiao Chen. Chapter 1132. However, elder son didn't expect that little Miss Xing's phone was locked with a fingerprint and password. He tried a few sets of passwords, but they were all wrong. He could only place the phone on little Miss Xing's finger and unlock the screen. He was too lazy to walk back, so he stood in front of little Miss Xing and started flipping through the communication records. Little Miss Xing looked down and saw elder son looking down at his phone. She couldn't help but rejoice in her heart. Luckily, she didn't contact Xiao Chen after buying the new phone. There was no trace of him in the phone. Elder son was going to be disappointed. As expected, after flipping through the phone for a long time, elder son's frown deepened. Why wasn't there any record in the phone? If it was really Xiao Chen's instructions, wasn't the secrecy done too well? After staring at the phone and thinking for a long time, elder son's eyes suddenly lit up. He directly opened the text message function and started typing. He planned to use little Miss Xing's tone to send a message to Xiao Chen for help. Firstly, he could confirm his thoughts. Secondly, if it was really Xiao Chen who wanted the information, then he could trick him into Qi Tian's sect. Who knows, he might even be able to lure those people out. This way, wouldn't he be killing two birds with one stone? He was really too smart. After typing the message, elder son looked through it again. After confirming that there were no problems, he found Xiao Chen's number and sent it over. Then, he decisively switched off the phone and sat back in his chair. He crossed his legs and smiled sinisterly as he imagined the scene of his plan succeeding and Xiao Chen walking into his trap. Seeing elder son's despicable smile, little Miss Xing could faintly guess what he was using her phone for. Her originally relaxed mood became a little nervous again. There was a strange feeling of anticipation and worry in her heart. She hoped that Xiao Chen would come and save her, but she also didn't want Xiao Chen to take this risk. For a moment, thousands of thoughts ran through her mind and her mood became complicated. Even she didn't know why she was like this. In the backyard of the Jia residence, in an abandoned room, Xiaochen was preparing to start his research on those biohumans. Suddenly, the phone in his pocket vibrated. Xiaochen didn't think too much about it. He subconsciously took out his phone and glanced at it. He couldn't help but blurt out, "What the F***ck, isn't this ladyboy too unreliable?" It's such a simple thing to steal data, but she was caught doing it. Wasn't she pretty good at it when she first came to the research institute to steal data? Looking at the message on his phone, Xiaochen couldn't help but feel angry and amused at the same time. He originally thought that little Lady Xing was familiar with her own sect and that she was quite proficient in this skill, so she should be able to successfully steal the information. He didn't expect that she would be dragged into this. Even though he said that, Xiaochen still immediately dialed Xing's number. It wasn't until the cold tone of the phone being turned off that Xiaochen realized that something was wrong. Cheng Menjing and the other girls were very bored staying in the courtyard, so they were all by Xiaochen's side to help him. When they heard what he said, they all stretched their heads and glanced at his phone. There was only a short line of words on it. Xiaochen, stealing data failed. I've been exposed. Hubby Xiaochen, are you going to open Heavenly Gate to rescue Xing Xing? Seeing this, Tian Souring asked with concern. She pouted and added, Sister Souring feels that she's quite pitiful. Open Heavenly Gate is a broken place. There's no human touch at all. It seems that she's only happier when she's with us. Tian Souring's words came from the bottom of her heart. After spending some time together, she had quite a good impression of Xing Xing. She felt that this girl didn't pretend and was very refreshing. She also communicated very harmoniously with her, so naturally, she didn't want Xing Xing to suffer. Yes. Xiaochen, why don't you go? No matter what, young Master Xing was caught because he wanted to save Tang Tang. We can't just watch him die. Cheng Menjing nodded in agreement. In fact, from the bottom of her heart, Cheng Menjing didn't want Xiaochen to go to open Heavenly Gate. After all, that was the enemy's base camp. It was too dangerous to break in. However, if Xiaochen really didn't go to save people, it would be somewhat morally unjustifiable. Therefore, her heart was also quite tangled. At this time, hearing Tian Souring's words, she finally made up her mind. Well, I'll get ready and go right away. You can tell Jia Musen later. But remember not to tell him the truth. Just say that I have something urgent to do and need to go out immediately, so that he won't be anxious and think too much. Xiaochen put away his phone and warned. The women nodded in understanding. They all knew Jia Musen's character. If he knew that Xiaochen was going to open Heavenly Gate to save people, he would definitely not agree. After all, the risk factor was too high. However, although Ling Er and Ling Qianxue didn't object, they both proposed that they wanted to go with Xiaochen to save people. Although the strength of the two women wasn't high, they didn't want to let Xiaochen take risks alone. This kind of anxious feeling was too uncomfortable. Xiaochen could only comfort them with kind words and appease their emotions. Although open Heavenly Gate wasn't a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, there were too many unknown dangers. If he brought Ling Er and Ling Qianxue, it would be troublesome if he couldn't take care of them when the time came. Taking out the token to control Tang Tang, Xiaochen was a little hesitant. He was considering whether to bring Tang Tang with him. If this trip went smoothly, he might be able to get the antidote for Tang Tang while rescuing Xing Tang. If he gave her the antidote directly, the control potion would naturally be cured. Leave the token to us for safekeeping. It's more convenient for you to move alone. Cheng Menjing saw Xiaochen's doubts. She reached out and gently took the token. She explained, otherwise, if you bring Tang Tang with you, they might have other measures to capture her again. Then you'll be at a loss. Although Cheng Menjing used to have some hostility towards Tang Tang, it had long disappeared with time. At this time, she was also considering Tang Tang's safety. Alright, then I'll leave Tang Tang in your care. Xiaochen felt that what the eldest miss said was reasonable, so he smiled and agreed. He tidied up a little, opened the door and walked out. The girls naturally wouldn't stay in the room. They rushed out and stood behind Xiaochen, as if they could cheer him on. Xiaochen took out his flying sword and waved to Qing Menjing and the other girls. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely come back safely, and I can also bring Xing Tang back. Don't worry too much about me. Just wait for me to come back." After that, Xiaochen jumped on the flying sword and instantly left the Jia family, flying in the direction of Qi Tian Gate. Watching the flying sword break through the air, Xiaochen's figure gradually became a small black dot. Qing Menjing and the other girls looked at each other and could see the deep worry in each other's eyes. However, they had no other way. The only thing they could do was to take Tang Tang back to the courtyard and pray silently, hoping that Xiaochen could return smoothly. Chapter 1133. In the Dungeon of Awakening Gate. Although Miss Xing hadn't eaten for 2 days and hadn't closed her eyes, she still looked energetic and radiant. Other than her lips being a little dry and peeling due to lack of water, there was no other discomfort. After all, Miss Xing had the support of the Demon King Great Perfection Cultivation. Even if she didn't eat or drink for a week, she could live well. Previously, Elder Sun had tried to interrogate her a few more times, but little Chick Xing still had a blank expression on her face. She pretended to be crazy and refused to speak no matter what. Elder Sun couldn't be bothered to stay with this blockhead any longer, so he directly returned to the sect and didn't bother with her anymore. After all, as the Elder of Awakening Gate, he still had a lot of things to do. Anyway, he had already sent a text message to Xiaochen. He would see the results in these few days, so there was no need to continue to stay in the dungeon and accompany the silly Miss Xing in a daze. Although little girl Xing's body was safe and sound, she had stayed in the dark and gloomy prison for 2 days without anyone to accompany her. She still had to maintain her vigilance at all times and was prepared to play dumb. Her mental state was already beyond exhausted. Once she relaxed, a lot of negative thoughts would emerge in Miss Xing's mind. She felt that it was impossible for Xiaochen to take the risk to come for her. After all, this is the base camp of Awakening Gate. Who has such courage to break into the enemy camp? If Xiaochen doesn't come, then I will either die in the dungeon, or I will be taken by Elder Sun to experiment on some kind of biohuman, or, hey, Mr. Ladyboy, are you thirsty? Do you want to drink some of the best mineral water I made? On this day, Miss Xing was lowering her head and letting her imagination run wild. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice. That voice was so familiar that Miss Xing jumped in fright. She abruptly raised her head in disbelief and was instantly dumbfounded. It was indeed Xiaochen. She saw Xiaochen sitting leisurely on the table with his right index finger raised. There was a spinning water ball on top of it. He was looking at her with a smile. Hey, why don't you talk? Is it because he's not thirsty? Xiaochen shook his head and turned to look at the water ball in his hand. He muttered to himself, "Tsk tisk, that's a pity. I can't even drink such sweet water. I'll drink it myself. We have to save water. Don't waste it." After he finished speaking, Xiaochen moved his face closer to the side of the water ball spell and gently sucked the water in the water ball with his mouth. His throat even made gulp-gulp sounds as he swallowed. Little girl Xing involuntarily swallowed a mouthful of saliva. She had not drunk any water for 2 whole days. If she did not eat, she could rely on her cultivation to get by. However, not having water to drink was something that even cultivators could not bear. At this moment, when she saw the crystal-clear water ball in Xiaochen's hands, she naturally wanted to drink it to her heart's content. However, she also suspected that the Xiaochen she saw was an illusion. Or could it be a trap set by Elder Sun? Since she didn't know the enemy's situation, she could only choose to pretend to be unmoved. Alright, stop pretending. Drink some water. Once you're done, I'll take you and escape. Xiaochen had no choice but to raise the water ball spell to her mouth when he saw how pitiful Xing Er was, but she still pretended not to care. However, the originally fist-sized water ball had shrunk to the size of a ping-pong ball after Xiaochen drank a few mouthfuls. Xiaochen, it's really you? When little girl Xing's lips came into contact with the water ball, she instantly felt a cooling sensation. She couldn't care about pretending to be confused anymore. She hurriedly opened her mouth and swallowed the entire water ball. Then, she gulped down the water in large mouthfuls. However, before she could drink a few mouthfuls, the water ball was completely exhausted. Little girl Xing was still unsatisfied and unconsciously used her tongue to lick her teeth. In the end, the tip of her tongue touched a strange thing. This. I say, Prince Ladyboy, your tastes are very unique. It seems that not only have you not drunk water for a long time, you haven't even eaten food. That's a little too miserable. Xiaochen jumped in fright and hurriedly pulled his finger out. He didn't expect little girl Xing to be so fierce. She actually put his finger in her mouth and subconsciously licked it a few times. This action was a little too ambiguous. Pay. Who wants to eat your finger? You're simply too unhygienic. That's right, have you trimmed your nails? What if there are germs? Will you infect me? Little girl Xing finally realized what she had licked and jumped in fright. She hurriedly spat a few times and angrily retorted. Thinking back to her previous expression of enjoyment, little girl Xing's face instantly turned red. Originally, she thought that the Xiaochen in front of her was someone else in disguise. However, when she touched the unmistakably real water ball technique and heard Xiaochen's infuriating words, she immediately confirmed that this was definitely Xiaochen. After all, only Xiaochen would make such an unimaginable water ball technique. Only he would have such a venomous tongue. He was clearly here to save her, yet he could make her so angry that she was grinding her teeth. You still have the nerve to talk about me? Xiaochen curled his lips and mercilessly exposed her. Who was the one who didn't get tired of it and even blindly licked with his tongue? To think that I was so worried about your safety and rushed over at top speed. I even accidentally got a few speeding tickets. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have come to save you. You don't know how to appreciate my kindness. Although he was complaining, Xiaochen's hands did not hesitate as he quickly removed the shackles on little girl Xing's hands and feet. Then, he very naturally stretched out his hand to take her pulse. After confirming that her body was fine, he finally relaxed. Fast your head. Do you think you're still in the secular world? Wake up, okay? Little girl Xing rolled her eyes in annoyance. However, she was still a little touched by Xiaochen's thoughtfulness in taking her pulse after saving her. In order to hide this emotion, she changed the topic and asked, "That's right, how did you know that I was locked up here? Also, how did you get in? When we were outside the open heaven gate, didn't you say that there was a place with lax security? I came in from there. As for how I knew where you were, you don't have to worry about that." Xiaochen shrugged his shoulders and gave a simple explanation. Oh. Okay. Little girl Xing nodded. Her shackles were released and she began to move her wrists. Then, she bent down to massage her ankles, unintentionally revealing a large patch of snow-white skin on her back. Previously, when Xiaochen was helping little girl Xing remove her shackles, he had noticed that the clothes on her back seemed to be torn. At that time, he was a little puzzled. Now that little girl Xing bent down, Xiaochen's gaze naturally landed on her back. Chapter 1134. He saw that on Miss Xing's snow-white back, there were many ghastly scars. Her flesh was twisted and blood-stained. It was obvious that she had been whipped recently, causing her perfect back to become a complete mess. Xiao Chen's expression changed when he saw this scene. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. His tone immediately turned cold as he asked, "Xing Gongzi, what happened to your back? Who whipped you? What injury?" Xing Gongzi was stunned. She straightened her body and touched her back. Only then did she know what Xiao Chen was talking about. She waved her hand carelessly and said, "Oh, didn't I help you steal research materials a few days ago? In the end, I was caught by Elder Sunday. Fortunately, I was smart enough to pretend that my mind was being controlled by someone and became like Tang Tang. That's how I was spared." Spared? Xiao Chen's brows furrowed tightly. He looked at Xing Gongzi pulling up the clothes on her back and asked with dissatisfaction, "There are so many wounds on your back. How can you be considered spared? Who did this to him?" Xing Gongzi smiled and explained, These injuries were caused by Elder Sunday. But it's not a big deal. It's not like I hurt my muscles or bones. It's fine. When I was cultivating in the past, the injuries I suffered were much more serious than this." He, Elder Sun, right? Xiao Chen's tone was gloomy. "I've long wanted to meet him. He even dared to be so heavy-handed with my people. His position as an elder has come to an end." Xiao Chen didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled. But that smile revealed a cold murderous intent. Xing Gongzi couldn't help but shiver. Seeing Xiao Chen like this, Xing Gongzi didn't feel at ease. Instead, she frowned and was a little worried. After all, there were many masters in Qi Tian Gate. She was afraid that Xiao Chen would impulsively go find Elder Sunday. Now that they were finally freed, it would be really hard to escape if they were caught again. Therefore, Xing Gongzi didn't mind Xiao Chen saying that she was his person. Instead, she pulled him and hurriedly said, "Forget it, Xiao Chen. This little bit of pain is nothing to me. Think about my cultivation, this little bit of skin wound can't hurt me at all. Let's leave Qi Tian Gate first. Who knows when Elder Sun and the others will come back. It's fine. I'll send you to a safe place first before coming back to teach Elder Sun a lesson." Xiao Chen's tone softened. He casually took off his jacket and draped it over Xing's body. Then, he helped her out of the dungeon. Xing Gongzi knew that Xiao Chen was helping her cover the wound on her back and her torn clothes. She couldn't help but feel a burst of warmth in her heart. She tightened the jacket on her body and wanted to say a few more words to persuade Xiao Chen. Unexpectedly, just as she walked out of the dungeon, she saw Elder Sun and a middle-aged man walking shoulder to shoulder in the direction of the dungeon. There were even a few venerable experts following behind them. They were the people who had captured her earlier. Xing Gongzi was shocked and immediately returned to her original state. She started to act dumb and stared blankly into the distance. At this time, Elder Sun also saw the movement in front of the dungeon. He saw Xiao Chen supporting Xing Gongzi and preparing to sneakily escape. He was stunned for a moment before shouting, "Damn! Xiao Xing, you traitorous disciple! You really have something going on with Xiao Chen. I've finally caught you red-handed. You have nothing to say, right? Why aren't you going to surrender?" Xing Gongzi turned a deaf ear to him and continued to walk in the direction of the escape with a blank look. Elder Sun was furious and immediately ordered his subordinates behind him, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and attack. Capture both of them." The few honorable experts exchanged glances and immediately used their movement techniques to rush over. They surrounded Xiao Chen and Xing Gongzi in the middle. Then, they circulated their mental cultivation techniques and were ready to attack at any time. Seeing Xing Gongzi suddenly turn into a blank look, Xiao Chen immediately understood the reason. His face darkened and he angrily said, "Looks like you are Elder Sun. What a coincidence, I was just about to look for you. Since you're here, there's no need for you to leave." "Humph. You overestimate yourself. I should be the one saying that to you." Elder Sun walked over and coldly snorted, "Do you think that after killing a few useless biohumans, you have enough strength to fight against the open heavenly gate? Today, I'll make sure that you won't be able to leave alive." After saying that, Elder Sun did not wait for Xiao Chen to make his move. He turned around and ordered his subordinates, "Xiao Chen is full of tricks. Don't show any mercy. All of you, attack. Don't give him any chance to attack." "Yes, sir." Since Elder Sun had spoken, the honorable experts naturally would not show any mercy. In an instant, they raised the demonic qi in their bodies to the maximum. Then, they waved their palms and slapped towards Xiao Chen. The air was suddenly filled with a suffocating and thick killing intent. TSK, I realize that you people are even more stupid than the biohumans. Do you really think that I'm a weakling that you can kill as you please? As Xiao Chen mocked them, he immediately circulated his mental cultivation techniques. He took out his flying sword and infused it with his divine sense and mental strength. He waved his sword and shouted loudly, "So what if you're honorable experts? All of you can go to hell. Unsheath." The middle-aged man who came with Elder Sun had not spoken before. He just watched from the side. When Xiao Chen was surrounded, he only raised his eyebrows and did not look proud. Because he knew that since this kid dared to come alone, he must have come prepared. It was just that he did not know what Xiao Chen's ultimate move was. When Xiao Chen mocked Elder Sun, the middle-aged man's ominous premonition became stronger. When he saw the flying sword break through the air, he finally felt that the situation was not good. He could not help but shout, "Danger! Be careful! Get out of the way!" Whoosh! Although the middle-aged man's shout was considered timely, the honorable expert's reaction speed was still a step too slow. The flying sword in the air split into two, then two into four. In a flash, it transformed into the same number of honorable experts. Those flying swords stopped in the air for a short while. All of them drew a strange arc in the air and went straight for the heads of the surrounding honorable experts. Those honorable experts did not understand what was going on. They saw a strong light flash in front of them, and then a large hole was pierced through their heads. They were even sent flying by a strong force. They did not even have the chance to scream. When they landed on the ground, they were all dead. What? This is... Elder Sun's mouth was wide open in horror. He looked at the lifeless honorable experts on the ground in disbelief. His back was drenched in cold sweat, and his heart felt incomparably cold. Chapter 1135. Although Elder Sun had heard about the flying sword from Elder Chen before, he only thought that it was a tool for Xiao Chen to fly. He never expected Xiao Chen's flying sword to be so powerful. Not only could he fly on a sword, but he could also use it to kill so many venerable realm masters. This was too heaven-defying. Xiao Chen raised his sword finger and twirled it in the air. He gathered all the flying swords back together and merged them into one flying sword. He put it back in his hand and turned around to look at Elder Sun's expression. He sneered coldly, "What's the point of opening your mouth so wide? Do you want to experience the feeling of a flying sword piercing through your throat?" Elder Sun's entire body trembled, and he immediately closed his mouth. Because he closed his mouth too quickly, the sound of bones cracking could be heard, and he almost dislocated. Xiao Chen didn't look at him. Instead, he lowered his head and admired his flying sword. He said calmly, "What do you think? My new ultimate technique is powerful, right? Do you want to find some venerable realm masters to test it out on me?" Actually, Xiao Chen's divide and strike technique was inspired by the fire of the underworld. In addition, he had seen some cartoons in the past. Then, he came up with it on his way to the open heavenly gate. After coming up with this technique, he tested it repeatedly before he finally succeeded. Now that he was using it, it was indeed powerful and effective. However, this ultimate technique had its own weakness. Basically, every time it was used, it would consume a large amount of yuan qi and mental strength. Usually, after using it, it would require a period of time to recover. Xiaofan originally planned to use this technique to deal with the biohumans. However, the situation was critical now, so he could only use it on normal cultivators. At least, it could save them in an emergency. Otherwise, if Xiaofan really had to face so many venerable realm masters alone, he might not have 100% chance of winning. Moreover, he had to split his attention to take care of Lady Xing, who was pretending to be dumb. Apart from Elder Sun and the other cultivators, the middle-aged man who warned them just now didn't look simple either. Weighing the pros and cons, Xiaofan could only choose to unleash his ultimate move first. On the one hand, he could reduce the enemy's combat power, and on the other hand, he could intimidate Elder Sun and the middle-aged man. After that, he could think of a way to escape. This sect. Sect leader Situ, do you think we should send those biohumans over to block them? Elder Sun was so frightened that he took a few steps back. He stuttered and asked for instructions. Xiaofan is too powerful. If this goes on, I'm afraid all the venerable experts in our sect will. Elder Sun was smart enough to not finish his discouraging words. In fact, he was also shocked by the move just now, and felt that he could not resist it. He was afraid that if Xiaofan was unhappy, he would use his flying sword to stab him to death. Lunatic! Why don't you go block the flying swords yourself? Hearing how Elder Sun addressed him, the middle-aged man was obviously Open Heaven sect leader Situ Chitian. He glared at Elder Sun and took a few steps forward vigilantly. He looked at Xiaofan and said in a low voice, Xiaofan, I didn't expect you to have some ability. However, this doesn't mean that our Open Heaven sect is afraid of you. How about this, let's each take a step back this time. We'll fight openly again another day. What do you think? Situ Chitian was not like Elder Sun, who was afraid of Xiaofan's flying sword. It was just that he had heard from Elder Chen that Xiaofan had other strange moves that he had not used until now. Therefore, Situ Chitian did not plan to act rashly. He wanted to figure out Xiaofan's trump card first before making a long-term plan. Oh, no problem. Since sect leader Situ has spoken, I have to give you face no matter what, right? Then we'll meet again. Xiaofan nodded nonchalantly. Then, he held the flying sword in one hand and held Xing's arm in the other as he walked out. However, they had only taken a few steps when they were stopped by Situ Chitian again. Xiaofan frowned and looked coldly at Situ Chitian. He said indifferently, Sect leader Situ, what do you mean by this? Are you going to swallow your words back into your stomach? As a dignified sect leader, how can you be so immoral? Don't you think you're not magnanimous enough? Xiaofan, don't misunderstand. That's not what I meant. Situ Chitian smiled faintly. He pointed at Xing Chick and said, I just said that you can leave, but little Xing is a member of our Awakening Heaven sect. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to take her away so openly, right? Oh? What's not appropriate? Why don't I feel that way? Xiaofan raised his eyebrows and looked at Situ Chitian provocatively. Situ Chitian saw that Xiaofan's attitude was so unyielding, and his face stiffened. He said stiffly, if you really take her away and word gets out, Situ Chitian won't have the face to mingle in the inner martial arts circle. So, I hope that you can keep her and hand her over to Open Heaven sect to deal with. Hand her over to you for what? Is this what you mean by taking a step back? Xiaofan sneered. Then I'm sorry, I don't accept your conditions. Today, I must take Xing Gongzi away. If you think that you have the ability to keep us here, then you can try. Xiaofan naturally knew that things were not so simple. He simply shed all pretense of cordiality and raised his flying sword, pointing it at Situ Chitian. Then, he slowly injected his mental strength into the sword. Ha ha ha. Good. Very good. Situ Qitian threw his head back and laughed a few times. Without another word, he circulated his mental cultivation and displayed the strength of a perfected supremacy. He stared at Xiao Chen and said coldly, "Then all of you. Damn it, you actually cheated." Situ Qitian was prepared to say something to boost his morale before attacking Xiao Chen. But halfway through his words, he suddenly saw Xiao Chen's fingers loosen, and a white beam of light shot straight at him. What a joke. It's not like I'm listening to a teacher's lecture. Do I have to wait for you to finish before attacking? Do you think I'm stupid? Xiao Chen snorted coldly, his tone filled with mockery. In fact, Xiao Chen had no choice but to attack. After all, he had used that move just now, and he did not have much primordial energy left in his body. Although he did not know if he could kill Situ Qitian in one strike, Xiao Chen still wanted to give it a try. Otherwise, the longer it dragged on, the greater the danger. Furthermore, he had to leave some mental strength to control the flying sword, so he did not use his full strength. Against Xiao Chen's attack, Situ Qitian could only give up on attacking helplessly. Instead, he gathered all his fiendish qi in his hand and stared unblinkingly at the rapidly approaching white light, silently estimating the flying sword's speed. Just as the flying sword was about to stab into Situ Qitian's body, he suddenly clasped his palms together. With a beautiful empty-handed blade grab, he caught the flying sword between his palms. Chapter 1136. However, it was unknown whether it was due to inertia, or Situ Qitian had wrongly estimated Xiao Chen's strength, but the flying sword that had been blocked continued to charge forward. It only stopped when the tip of the sword pierced Situ Qitian's forehead. The skin between Situ Qitian's brow was also pierced, and a drop of blood instantly flowed down his nose, looking a little scary. "Oh, your reaction is quite fast. You're much stronger than those defeated soldiers under you. No wonder you can become the sect leader of Awakening Sect." Xiao Chen curled his lips. He looked calm and collected on the surface, but he secretly lamented that it was a pity. He had thought that he could kill Situ Qitian with his flying sword, but he did not expect that Situ Qitian would be able to catch it. This old fellow really had some ability. Situ Qitian threw away the flying sword in his hand and wiped the blood on his forehead. His expression was very ugly. Since he had broken through to become a venerable expert, this was the first time he had been injured, and it was a sneak attack. It was simply too embarrassing. Fortunately, there was only Elder Sun beside him. Otherwise, if disciples from other sects saw this, he would lose a lot of face. "Xiao Chen, don't be too proud of yourself." Seeing Situ Qitian's gloomy face after being injured, Elder Sun hurriedly stood up and retorted loudly, "Why don't you say that even your most powerful move was easily resolved by our sect leader Situ? I'd like to see what kind of ability you have next, enough to let you leave Awakening Sect." As he spoke, Elder Sun lowered his head, and his eyes suddenly fell on the flying sword on the ground. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he pounced forward, reaching out to snatch the flying sword. Just as Elder Sun's fingertips were about to touch the flying sword, he heard a swoosh sound, and the flying sword rose from the ground and flashed past his eyes. Elder Sun watched the flying sword return to Xiao Chen's hand, but he himself had fallen flat on his face. Xiao Chen easily used his mental strength to control the flying sword and took it back into his hand. Then he looked at Elder Sun, who had angrily climbed up and dusted himself off, and said, "Surnamed Sun, you've lived so many years, but have you been living like a dog? Aren't you a little too naive? How could I only have this move? Didn't your Elder Chen tell you that I still have many strange tricks up my sleeves?" Elder Sun and Situ Qitian were stunned. They looked at each other, and Elder Chen's horrified description appeared in their minds at the same time. Elder Chen said that not only could Xiao Chen control biohumans, but he could also control a kind of black shadow. Not only could it help him absorb damage, but it could also release bluish-purple flames that could instantly burn biohumans to ashes. As for Xiaofan, he had not even used these moves yet. The two of them immediately felt a little guilty and did not know what to say to retaliate. When Xiaofan saw Situ Qitian and Elder Sun's expressions suddenly turn a little grave, he immediately guessed that Elder Chen must have exaggerated when he reported. Otherwise, these two fools wouldn't have been so easily intimidated by his one sentence. Don't think I don't know that she's an outstanding disciple of your sect. Controlling such a person is the most fulfilling thing. Xiaofan immediately guessed that Elder Chen must have exaggerated when he reported. Don't think I don't know that she's an outstanding disciple of your sect. Controlling such a person gives me the greatest sense of accomplishment. Humph, Xiaofan, don't try to trick me. I won't believe you. You're just a rogue cultivator from the secular world. How could you control someone's mind without the help of any drugs? Do you really think we're 3-year-old children? Elder Sun snorted. Although he said that, he knew that Elder Chen was not lying. After all, this guy had brought 7 or 8 biohumans out, and none of them returned. It was absolutely impossible to say that Xiaofan did not have some trump cards. However, Xiaofan said that he could control people's minds. This was complete nonsense. How could he do this without the use of drugs? Even the awakening gate itself had been researched for several years and experienced countless failures before it was able to produce those barely qualified experimental potions. Situ Qitian, on the other hand, did not say a word as he looked at Xiaofan in front of him in silence. He sighed in his heart. Back then, that good-for-nothing who could not cultivate, an ant who was mercilessly suppressed in the secular world, actually had the qualifications to come to the inner martial arts world. He had even walked into the Awakening Heaven sect's headquarters and stood in front of him. As for his painstaking efforts, would they bear fruit? The person behind Xiaofan, when will you come out? I, Situ Qitian, don't have that much time to play with you. Oh, since you don't believe me, then I'll let you see. Xiaofan ignored Situ Qitian's changing expression and shrugged. He directly released his divine sense to Elder Sunday, don't joke around. Smack. Elder Sun was just about to laugh at him when he suddenly raised his left hand and slapped himself hard. Situ Qitian's thoughts were immediately interrupted as he looked at this scene dumbfounded. What? What was going on? Elder Sun was controlled just like that? But Xiaofan did not even touch him. Xiaofan leisurely retracted his divine sense and stared at Elder Sun with a cold smile. How is it? Impossible? Try saying that again. This. Elder Sun was completely dumbfounded. He subconsciously reached out and touched his face, only to feel a burning pain on his face. When he was being controlled just now, he could not do anything and could only watch his own hand hit his face heavily. He did not even have the slightest consciousness to resist. What happened? Why am I here? Little Miss Xing had seen the whole process just now and was not confused at this time. She immediately woke up when Xiaofan was controlling Elder Sunday. She looked left and right in a daze and said in a daze, Sect Leader Situ, Elder Sun, why are you here? Xiaofan. What are you doing here? After saying that, Little Miss Xing immediately took a few steps back and slightly distanced herself from Xiaofan. She had a vigilant look on her face. It had to be said that Little Miss Xing had been training and completing missions all year round. Her acting skills had already reached perfection. Even Situ Qitian and Elder Sun were fooled by her vivid performance. Xiaofan also looked at her in a daze. For a moment, the few of them did not know what to say. Cough, cough. In the end, it was Situ Qitian who reacted first. He rolled his eyes and immediately came up with a plan. He cleared his throat and attracted everyone's attention. He first looked deeply at Little Miss Xing, then turned his head and said to Xiaofan with a solemn face, Xiaofan, don't think that just because you know some crooked tricks, I won't dare to do anything to you. If not for the fact that the venerable mystic realm is about to open and I don't want any more losses, I would have already kept you here. Chapter 1137. Oh. Xiaochen scratched his head, secretly praising Xing's outstanding acting skills. Just like that, she managed to fool these two idiots. Situ Qitian continued in a serious tone, since you like Xiao Xing so much, then take her away. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. I will settle this debt with you sooner or later. At this moment, Situ Qitian was still admiring his own acting skills. After seeing Xing's actions just now, he immediately deduced that Xiaochen definitely knew this kind of mind-controlling secret technique. However, he could only control one person at a time. So, after Xiaochen took control of elder son, that chick Xing woke up. Due to Xing's realistic acting skills, Situ Qitian had no doubts about Xiaochen's strength. After he finished his high-sounding speech, he immediately used telepathy and secretly told Xing that nothing big had happened just now. It was just Xiaochen trying to save her. After explaining, Situ Qitian immediately ordered Xing to continue following Xiaochen using his status as the sect master. At the same time, he secretly investigated Xiaochen's mind-controlling secret technique, as well as that black fog and bluish-purple flame. What kind of ultimate technique was that? Hearing Situ Qitian's secret order, little Miss Xing nodded at him imperceptibly. Although she didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the scene in front of her, she had no other choice but to agree first. Otherwise, if this deadlock continued, she could still pretend to be a fool, but Xiaochen might not even be able to leave the open heaven gate. No matter what, Xiaochen was here to save her. She couldn't possibly cheat him, right? Oh, if you want revenge, I'll welcome it any time. Is there anything else now? If there's nothing else, I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. Bye-bye. Xiaochen said casually. Then, he pulled Xing onto the flying sword and infused the rest of his mental strength into it. With a swoosh sound, the flying sword immediately took the two of them away. Soon, only a small black dot was left. Seeing that the precious flying sword that was about to fall into his hands was gone, elder son couldn't help but sigh. Looking at the distant black shadow, he said unwillingly, Sect Master Situ, why didn't you leave Xiaochen behind? Don't we still have two more powerful biohumans? If we can send them out, I think. Elder son, I notice that you're getting more and more muddle-headed. Before elder son could finish speaking, Situ Qitian interrupted his words and reprimanded sternly. Elder son was startled and quickly bowed his head respectfully. He stood there, not even daring to breathe loudly. Situ Qitian glared at him and said impatiently, after sending Xiao Xing out to investigate for so long, he still hasn't figured out Xiaochen's true strength. What's more, Xiao Xing is being controlled by someone else. Fortunately, she only came back this time to steal the information. If Xiaochen instructed her to go to the laboratory and set it on fire, wouldn't our entire Awakening Heaven sect be destroyed? This is indeed your subordinate's negligence. Elder son admitted his guilt in fear and trepidation. However, he was a little speechless. He thought to himself, weren't you the one who said that Xiaochen couldn't be killed immediately? Otherwise, that last Xing would have killed him several times already. Why would she need to make such a fuss? Also, what did you just say? Biohumans? You still have the cheek to mention biohumans? Situ Qitian became angrier as he spoke. He glared at elder son and roared. Your subordinate. Your subordinate knows his mistake. Please forgive me, sect master. Elder son shuddered and fell to his knees. Although he didn't know what had happened to the biohumans, sect master Situ must have touched his reverse scale for him to be so angry. Situ Qitian took a deep breath and calmed his emotions. Then, he said indifferently, it's not like you don't know that the Venerate secret realm is about to open. After that, that place will open as well. Where do we have the manpower to go and mess around with Xiaochen? Elder son regained his composure. Only then did he realize where he had gone wrong. This was like picking up a sesame seed and throwing away a watermelon. For the sake of a flying sword, he had forgotten the most important purpose. No wonder Sect Master Situ was so angry. Situ Chitian sighed and shook his head. He continued, Elder Chen's action this time was not only ineffective, but we also lost so many biohumans. Of course, we have to leave the two most powerful ones to explore that place. How can we use them to deal with Xiaochen? Isn't this a waste of talent? Yes, Sect Master Situ is right. Then we'll let Xiaochen live for a few more days. After the sect has settled all the important matters, we'll find trouble with him. Elder son trembled again and said respectfully. All right, hurry up and prepare the relevant matters. This time, we must send the most outstanding people to the Venerable Realm to ensure that everything goes smoothly. Situ Chitian looked in the direction where Xiaochen and Elder Son had disappeared and added, as for Xiaochen, I've already asked Xiao Xing to keep an eye on him. Don't act rashly for the time being. Yes, this subordinate understands. Situ Chitian touched his forehead helplessly and found that the place where Xiaochen's flying sword had stabbed him was bleeding again. So, he gave Elder Son a few instructions and turned to apply medicine in his room. Elder Son waited for Situ Chitian to leave before he slowly stood up. His eyes were full of hatred. That damned Xiaochen. He caused me to be scolded by the sect master. I'll definitely pay him back double in the future. On the other side, after flying on the flying sword for a few hours, Xiaochen gradually felt a little exhausted. After observing for a while, he realized that no one was chasing after him, so he slowed down and stopped in a forest. He found a big tree and sat down to rest. At first, Miss Xing was a little puzzled. She didn't know why Xiaochen wasn't in a hurry to return but had stopped instead. However, when she saw that Xiaochen was sitting cross-legged on a tree branch with his eyes closed, she understood that he might have exhausted his demonic qi and couldn't fly anymore. After understanding the reason, Miss Xing didn't rush him anymore. She obediently sat beside Xiaochen and recounted the mission that Situ Chitian had given her in full detail. Although Miss Xing didn't understand why she had told him everything, she felt that she shouldn't hide anything from Xiaochen. After listening, Xiaochen nodded his head and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Since Situ Chitian had chosen to let Miss Xing investigate him, it meant that before Situ Chitian found out his true strength, he wouldn't rashly send people to kill him again. From the looks of it, he and Miss Xing would be safe for a short period of time and could relax a little. Thinking of this, Xiaochen let out a long sigh and let go of the worries in his heart. He deeply felt that he should bring more spirit jades with him in the future. At the very least, he could use them for emergencies. Otherwise, if he encountered a similar situation again, he wouldn't be so lucky. Chapter 1138. Just as Xiaochen was running from place to place, there was a turbulent undercurrent in the internal martial arts world. Under the calm surface, there was an extremely ferocious undercurrent. Apart from the Jia clan, Tang clan, and Yu clan, as well as the demon sect's awakening sect, there were two special forces in the internal martial arts world. Usually, they did not seem to have any presence, but internally, they had extremely profound and unknown strength. These two forces were different from ordinary internal martial arts world clans in terms of their own cultivation methods and the items they needed for cultivation. Therefore, they usually formed their own faction and did not interact with most of the sects and clans in the internal martial arts world. However, the two forces always schemed against each other and fought for resources. Once they met, they would fight until their heads were broken and they were determined to see who was stronger. One of the forces called itself an Immortal Cultivator sect. It was formed by Song Huawu, Song Qingshu's Song clan, Hongzhu's Hong clan, and a few other less famous clans. However, they did not use the title of Immortal Cultivator Sect when they interacted with the outside world. For example, the Hong clan appeared as a merchant clan, while the Song clan disguised themselves as a middle-level cultivation clan. This was to protect the secret of their Immortal Cultivator Sect. As for the origin of this Immortal Cultivator Sect, it was precisely because the ancestors of their clans had unintentionally mastered some unique cultivation methods that were much more exquisite than those of the martial cultivators and demonic cultivators. Therefore, this sect was formed by a few clans that had discovered the cultivation methods together. Considering that if the cultivation methods were to be spread out, it might cause other sects to fight over them, they usually kept a very low profile and only moved in a small circle. Although others knew that these clans had a close relationship, they would never think that they were actually a force. The other sect was the Ghost Cultivator Sect, which corresponded to the Immortal Cultivator Sect. They called themselves the Tranquil Forest Sect to the outside world. These people were inextricably linked to the West Mountain in the secular world. Due to their unruly and evil behavior, they were not accepted by the world and were known as evil cultivators. Therefore, they were like street rats and did not dare to be too ostentatious. In the cultivation methods left behind by their ancestors, the Immortal Cultivator Sect found a place where one could advance after breaking through the Venerable Realm consummation. They called it the Immortal Cultivation World. On the other hand, the ancestors of the Tranquil Forest Sect had entered the Immortal Cultivation World with the help of the treacherous and cruel cultivation methods. They left hints for their descendants, hoping that they could cultivate to the Immortal Cultivation World as soon as possible so that they could enter the Immortal Cultivation World and seek refuge with their ancestors. It was precisely because these two forces had the same goal, and they both wanted to be the first to enter the world of cultivation. Thus, they usually secretly mobilized their forces and accumulated their strength. Once they met, there would definitely be endless conflicts. No matter which side it was, they didn't want the other side to get ahead of them. Apart from these, most of the sects and clans in the martial arts world were still stuck at the stage where they were trying to break through from martial king to martial venerable. The path of the venerable was prepared for these people. These people had never thought that there would be a higher realm after the venerable realm. This problem was finally solved when Situ Chitian of the Awakening Heaven sect broke through to the 10th level of the venerable realm. After Situ Chitian reached the 10th level of the venerable realm, he vaguely felt that there was a higher level after that. However, when he tried to break through, he could not find a way. After thinking for a long time, he suddenly thought of something. If a king could use the Immortal Cultivation World to break through to the venerable realm, would there be a similar arcane realm that could help in breaking through to the venerable realm? Thinking of this, Situ Chitian immediately sent out all the disciples of the sect to search the Immortal Cultivation World. He especially focused on the venerable realm. Finally, during a search of the venerable realm, the experts of the Qi Heavenly Sect found an ancient ruin near the arcane realm. Based on some vague hints left behind, they learned that there was a secret path in the ancient ruin. It could be opened with spiritual jade at any time, and they could use it to enter the Immortal Cultivation World. When these experts sent the news back to the Qi Heavenly Sect, Situ Chitian was overjoyed. However, the news that came next made his mood drop from the peak to the bottom. It turned out that those experts were so excited that they didn't wait for Situ Chitian's next order and tried to venture into the cultivation world. In the end, after going for half a month, not a single one of them returned. The people waiting outside felt that something was wrong and finally chose to report back to the sect. Situ Chitian sent a few more groups of people of different strengths to try. The result was no exception. No one could come out after they went in. Hence, no one dared to go in later. Situ Chitian had no choice but to rack his brains. Only then did he get people to develop those controllable biohumans. He planned to let them carry pinhole cameras and go in to explore the path first. Although this matter was extremely secretive, and the normal families and sects in the Immortal Cultivation World did not know much about it, it somehow spread to the ears of the Immortal Cultivation World and the Ghost Cultivation World. The leaders of the two sects reacted in unison. They laughed at Situ Chitian and were very dismissive of his method of entering the immortal cultivation world through the ancient ruin. There was no other reason. It was because they all knew that there was another easier way. That was, by sacrificing young women with spiritual qi, they could easily open the door to the immortal cultivation world. Hence, they would not send people to take risks in such an unknown place. In the immortal world, Songning City was still a peaceful scene. That night, Li Sienna returned to the place where she lived exhausted. Just as she opened the door, she felt that the usually empty house suddenly had something extra. Li Sienna looked over and saw a woman in black sitting on a chair. She was shocked, but when she saw who it was, her nervous expression immediately relaxed. "Master, why are you here?" Li Sienna closed the door and asked while boiling water, "Is there something urgent?" "Actually, you could have just given me a call. There was no need to come in person. I heard that it is also very troublesome for the immortal cultivation world to come to the immortal world." Li Sienna finished boiling the water and made a cup of tea for the woman in black. Then, she stood in front of her respectfully. "Sienna, is there any progress on the matter that I asked you to do?" The woman in black picked up the cup and took a sip. Then, she frowned slightly. It seemed that this cup of tea was not to her liking. "This. Master, please forgive me. I almost turned the entire Songning City upside down. I even went to Lon City a while ago, but I still did not find a suitable candidate." Li Sienna lowered her head and stammered. She looked a little embarrassed. The woman in black did not look surprised. She sighed softly and held the cup without saying anything. Chapter 1139. Li Sienna bit her lower lip and added, "But don't worry, master. As long as you give me a little more time, I will definitely help you find a suitable candidate." The woman in black raised the cup in her hand and was about to put it to her mouth when she heard Li Sienna's words. She paused for a moment and put the cup back on the table. She shook her head and said, "I heard that the ghost cultivation sect is also looking for a suitable candidate. If you can't find the person before they find the person, I'm afraid that not only our five-element sect, but also the entire immortal cultivation sect will be in trouble." Could it be that the other sects and families have also found nothing? Li Sienna was surprised and asked subconsciously. "You can say that. Currently, only the Hong family has found someone who is barely qualified, but one person is definitely not enough." The woman in black nodded with a somewhat annoyed expression on her face. "But master, it's too difficult to find a suitable person. Is there no other way to enter the immortal cultivation world?" Li Sienna complained gloomily. She had been running around looking for a suitable candidate for the past few months. She had worn out several pairs of shoes and spent an incalculable amount of money. In the end, she still couldn't complete the task. There were too few suitable people. The woman in black shook her head helplessly. She stared at Li Sienna's eyes and said, "Actually, you also know that you were originally a good candidate. If it wasn't for the fact that your physique isn't very suitable for immortal cultivation, which greatly affects the progress of your cultivation, we wouldn't have to go through so much trouble looking for you." Li Sienna was slightly shocked and dejectedly hung her head. In fact, she also wanted to make more contributions to the sect. However, the indisputable fact was that no matter how hard she cultivated, she couldn't make a breakthrough. Currently, she was still lingering around the qi refining stage. This matter was the biggest sticking point in Li Sienna's heart. "I'm sorry, Sienna. Master was impatient and spoke harshly just now. Don't take it to heart." The woman in black could see that Li Sienna was a little sad after being exposed. She reached out her hand and touched Li Sienna's head and said apologetically, "It's okay, master. I don't mean to blame you. I just feel a little guilty." Li Sienna raised her head and forced a smile. "After all, I also know that this is the most critical moment. If we let the ghost cultivation sect enter the immortal cultivation world and successfully find their ancestor, I'm afraid that not only the inner martial art world, but also the entire outer martial art world and the secular world will be in chaos. Li Xianer was usually careless and was no different from ordinary people. She was no different from the ordinary people in the secular world. She was always a careless person. But this was just a disguise. Li Xianert. She felt, was like her mother. And Li Xianert. Sheet as she say. Xianer as she could. Even after knowing that her physique was not suitable for immortal cultivation, her master was only disappointed for a while. Then, he searched for many precious heavenly treasures and insisted on giving them to her for a long period of time. With great difficulty, her physique changed a little, and she embarked on the path of immortal cultivation. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. The woman in black waved her hand, trying to ease the heavy atmosphere. It's okay if we can't find them. We'll use the most dangerous method to enter the immortal cultivation world. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. The woman in black waved her hand, trying to ease the heavy atmosphere. It's okay if we can't find them. We'll use the most dangerous method to enter the immortal cultivation world. In short, we can't let those people from the ghost cultivation sect succeed. Master, I. Li Xianer nodded. Just as she was about to say something, she was interrupted by the woman in black. Come. Let's not talk about other things. Speaking of which, I haven't eaten your cooking for a long time. Let me have a good taste of your cooking today and have a full meal. We'll talk about other things later. The woman in black took out some vegetables and meat from under the table as if she was performing a magic trick. She waved them in front of Li Xianer and said softly with a smile. Good. I haven't cooked for a long time. My skills might be rusty. Master, don't blame me if it's not delicious enough. Li Xianer cheered up and smiled. She reached out to take the ingredients and threw her negative emotions to the side. She happily ran into the kitchen and busied herself. Looking at Li Xianer's busy figure, the woman in black's face was brimming with a warm smile. She was just an ordinary woman. If it wasn't for the troublesome existence of the ghost cultivation sect, she also wanted to be with Li Xianer. The two of them would live in seclusion in the secular world and live a simple life as mortals. Unfortunately, things often don't go according to one's wishes. That night, after the woman in black had her dinner, she stayed at Li Xianer's house. She talked with her beloved disciple by candlelight until late at night. The next morning, the woman in black prepared to leave. Before she left, she hesitated for a long time. In the end, she told Li Xianer that after some time, the Hong family of the immortal cultivation sect would send someone over. It was a girl named Hong Zhu. She would help Li Xianer find a suitable candidate. After telling Li Xianer about this, the woman in black seemed to let out a sigh of relief. She gave Li Xianer a few more instructions before leaving. After sending off the woman in black, Li Xianer returned to her room and sat down. She stared blankly for a long time before sighing. In fact, Li Xianer was very resistant to some of the practices of the immortal cultivation sect. When the woman in black had given her the task, she had tried her best to complete it. Unfortunately, she hadn't found a suitable candidate in a short period of time. However, there was one time when her master had let slip and let Li Xianer know that the search for candidates for the sacrificial offering could actually be life-threatening. After knowing this, she had a feeling of disgust from the bottom of her heart. She was especially unwilling to help them find candidates. She was afraid that because of her, several innocent girls would lose their lives. Therefore, although she usually went out, she didn't deliberately look for candidates. Just like in the past, if it wasn't for the fact that someone from the Five Elements sect was secretly watching her, Li Xianer wouldn't have done things like catching ghosts for the rich second generation and real estate developers. This was simply lowering the level of her cultivation. Every time she finished doing these things, she felt disgusted by her own behavior. Li Xianer had also considered whether she should just lay her cards on the table to her master and tell her that she wasn't willing to do these immoral and life-threatening things. But every time the words came to her mouth, she would think of how her master had treated her well in the past. How she had stood up against the opinions of the masses and found countless precious treasures for her. She had gone through untold hardships to help her embark on the path of immortal cultivation. Chapter 1140. Every time she thought of that, Li Xianer would lose all her courage. She did not know what to say to her master. Li Xianer also understood that her master did not come to the secular world in person just to have a meal with her. The sect must have given her a lot of pressure. That was why she had gone to the Hong family to help her look for someone. Alas! It seemed that if she did not do something serious this time, not only would it be difficult for her to explain to her master, she might even be punished. She might as well go look for someone. At worst, after she found a suitable candidate, she would tell them the consequences and dangers of participating in the ritual and let them choose for themselves whether to participate or not. After thinking it through, Li Xianer stood up, packed up the things in the room, and decisively went out to carry out the mission. On one hand, she did not want to disappoint her master again, and on the other hand, she had nowhere to turn now. She could only brace herself and go on. Hongzhu, who was carrying the mission of looking for someone, had just settled Song Huawu and the other girls down. He told them that he would be away for a few days because he had something to do. He would ask the Hong family's intelligence network to help him look for Xiao Chen. As for Jin Beibei, Song Huawu, and Xiao Xiao, because they were not familiar with the people and the place in the inner martial arts world, and because Song Huawu had not recovered from the shock of suddenly learning about her parentage, Hongzhu reminded them to stay in the Hong family's house for the next 2 days and not to go out, in case they ran into any accidents and he could not come back in time to rescue them. After taking care of the matters here, Hongzhu hurried back to his base camp, the Hong family of the outer martial arts world. She came back here to prepare to meet with an important person and tell her something very important. This matter concerned the future of the entire immortal cultivation sect. The decision of this person after hearing the news might affect the direction Hongzhu would choose to take in the future. After returning to the Hong family, Hongzhu did not bother to greet other people. He directly walked to a very remote room in the backyard. Hongzhu, you haven't been here for a long time. I almost can't remember what you look like. Hearing the commotion outside the room, a woman in white slowly walked out of the room and said with a smile. As soon as the woman walked out, the sunlight in the courtyard seemed to brighten a little. Her beautiful face was not made up, but it was as fresh and refined as the morning clouds reflecting the snow. Her bright eyes looked as pure and innocent as a young deer, but they also revealed a hint of charm. She was clearly wearing a loose white robe, and when she moved, she was like a weak willow swaying in the wind, which made her figure even more exquisite and attractive. The leaves rustled, and her hair fluttered in the wind, but it was not messy at all. Instead, it made her look lively and perfect. Jingxian, don't forget that I've also learned seduction techniques. Your shoddy martial arts clearly have no effect on me. You should properly cultivate for a period of time. Hongzhu said in an indifferent manner. Although he said that, Hongzhu's gaze subconsciously shifted to the side, not daring to look straight into Shen Jingshuan's eyes. He could feel his heart thumping wildly in his chest. Although Hongzhu had no interest in women, just now, he had truly felt his heart move. Shen Jingshuan's angelic face already had an extremely great lethality to men. If she could pair it with her natural charm and display this kind of secret seduction technique, it would be able to stimulate a man's most primal urges. Even Hongzhu, who had cultivated seduction techniques, felt that he was a little unable to resist. Hongzhu couldn't help but feel lucky that he had made preparations in advance and arranged for Shen Jingxian to live alone in the most secluded room in the Hong residence. She was strictly forbidden from going out, and no other family members were allowed to set foot in that room. Daily chores such as meals were handed over to his personal maidservants to assist her, depriving her of any chance to meet with anyone else. Otherwise, with Shen Jingxuan's astonishing cultivation speed, coupled with her own superior conditions, let alone taking her out to defeat an enemy, even within the family, a storm of blood might be stirred up because of her. Just as he rejoiced, Hongzhu suddenly thought of the topic he was about to discuss with Shen Jingxian and suddenly felt a little unnatural. After all, this matter was related to the safety of the entire immortal cultivation sect, and it was also closely related to Shen Jingxuan's future. Unfortunately, he had never told her about it before, so Hongzhu really didn't know how to bring it up. Is there really no effect? Why do I feel like there's something wrong with you? Shen Jingxian smiled faintly as she teased him. No. Hongzhu's mind was in a whirl and he was momentarily unable to appreciate Shen Jingxuan's beauty as he absent-mindedly replied. Seeing that Hongzhu's expression was somewhat solemn, Shen Jingxian also put away her playful thoughts and asked, Hongzhu, did you come here for some other important matter other than to visit me? Yes. Hongzhu hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he didn't deny it. He nodded and said, you guessed right, I do indeed have something important to discuss with you. You'd better be mentally prepared. Hongzhu glanced at Shen Jingxian with an ashamed expression and thought for a long time, but he still didn't know where to start. In fact, Hongzhu knew from a young age that she and Hong Yan were born as rare women with spiritual energy in their bodies. They shouldered the heavy responsibility of completing the family's mission. Moreover, this important mission could also be life-threatening. It was precisely because of this that the Hong family rarely interfered with their daily lives, allowing them to do whatever they liked. Hong Yan studied in a pharmacy in the secular world, while Hongzhu followed her grandfather to manage the business. These were all their own interests. Hong Yan was a well-behaved child, obedient and sensible. Although she didn't know the specifics of this important mission and only knew that she had to contribute to the family's path to a higher world, she never expressed any complaints and was instead very cooperative with the family. However, Hongzhu was different. Her personality was the complete opposite of Hong Yan's. She was a little demoness who feared neither the heavens nor the earth. She acted boldly and willfully, so she was naturally unwilling to accept such a dangerous mission for no apparent reason. Since there was no way to go against the family, Hongzhu simply came up with an idea and decided to find someone with a similar constitution to her to complete the mission in her place. Previously, when he had gone to the secular world, he had coincidentally met Shen Jingxian, so Hongzhu had set his sights on her. Hongzhu discovered that not only did Shen Jingxuan's body contain spiritual energy, she was also born with an innately bewitching physique, which was extremely suitable for cultivating his cultivation technique. Thus, he had brought her back to the martial world with the intention of increasing Shen Jingxuan's strength so that she could complete the family's mission. If his relationship with Shen Jingxian was only limited to this, Hongzhu wouldn't have been in such a difficult situation today. Chapter 1141. Based on her little she-devil personality, tricking an ordinary person to complete a task for her was a simple matter, and she would not feel any guilt in her heart. But later, as the relationship between Hongzhu and Xiaofan grew closer, she gradually learned that this boy had already developed true feelings for Shen Jingxian, and that he was not just playing around. That was why she had told Hongzhu to take good care of Shen Jingxian and not let her get hurt. This time, Hongzhu was in a dilemma. She did not want to hurt Xiaofan, so she could not bear to let Shen Jingxian die in her place. But if she did not let Shen Jingxian go, then who would complete the task? Could it be that after going around in circles, she still had to do it herself? Today, Hongzhu had come to lay her cards on the table with Shen Jingxian. The ghost cultivation sect had already begun to move, and it was obvious that they were preparing for that matter. Therefore, the immortal cultivation sect's need for women with spiritual energy was growing more and more urgent. If this matter was not properly carried out, it was bound to be a mess. Hongzhu planned to tell Shen Jingxian everything she knew and let her make her own choice. If she finally chose to accept the task, it could not be considered as him forcing her to do so. If she decided to give up, then he would not stop her. Hongzhu's expression changed from time to time, sometimes worried, and sometimes depressed. Seeing this, Shen Jingxian also became a little nervous. She quickly walked in front of Hongzhu and asked in a low voice, "Is Xiaochen in danger? Last time, I heard you say that Xiaochen was chased by the sect leader of the Kuei Mountain sect, and then there was no news of him. Is there any news of him now?" Ever since she learned that Xiaochen had offended someone from the outer martial arts world, Shen Jingxian had been so worried that she could not eat or drink for several days. She had also lost a lot of weight. She even had the idea of returning to the secular world to rescue Xiaochen. Later, after Hongzhu's repeated persuasion, she gave up on this idea. Through Hongzhu's analysis, as well as after she had calmed down and thought things over, Shen Jingxian also understood that with her current meager cultivation, it was simply impossible for her to fight against the sect master of an outer martial arts sect. Even if she managed to find Xiaochen, she would only be a burden. Although she was unwilling, Shen Jingxian could only temporarily suppress the impulse in her heart and devote herself to cultivation. She strived to learn as soon as possible so that she could help Xiaochen. Although she didn't mention it, Shen Jingxian was still worried about Xiaochen. She usually lived alone in a corner and did not know much about the outside world, so when she saw the conflicted look on Hongzhu's face, she naturally thought of Xiaochen. Hongzhu was slightly taken aback, his expression a little unnatural. If he had really substituted himself for her and deliberately sent her to her death, Xiaochen would definitely hate him, wouldn't he? Seeing that Hongzhu was not saying anything, Shen Jingxian could not help but grab her wrist and ask anxiously, "Hongzhu, tell me quickly, did Xiaochen get into trouble again? Don't be anxious." Hongzhu came back to his senses and patted the back of Shen Jingxian's hand to comfort her. According to the current information, Xiaochen's life should not be in danger for the time being. However, according to speculation, he might have been captured by the inner martial arts world. Although Hongzhu was actually not confident about Xiaochen's safety, seeing how agitated Shen Jingxian was, she could only advise her with kind words and calm her down first. The inner martial arts world? Shen Jingxian was stunned and asked doubtfully, didn't he offend the Kuei Mountain sect of the outer martial arts world before? Why is he going against the inner martial arts world again? Could it be that the Kuei Mountain sect found help? The Kuei Mountain sect's leader is dead, so this threat has been removed. Hongzhu shook his head and said, there seems to be a mysterious force in the inner martial arts world that is capturing cultivators on a large scale. I suspect that Xiaochen's disappearance has something to do with this mysterious force. Then what should we do? Xiaochen might still be in danger. Shen Jingxian frowned slightly. She looked so pitiful that people could not help but want to go up and pamper her. We are also looking for his whereabouts now. Hongzhu suddenly thought of something and said, by the way, a few days ago, Xiao Xiao, Jin Beibei, and Song Huawu came to the outer martial arts world guild to ask for help. I happened to run into them. Do you know them? They are now in the Hong family of the inner martial arts world to help investigate the missing cultivators and to find Xiaochen's whereabouts. What? Beibei and Xiao Xiao also went to the inner martial arts world? Shen Jingxian was shocked. Why didn't you stop them? They actually brought them into the inner martial arts world. This is wrong. If they were in danger, how could we explain it to Xiaochen? Shen Jingxian, who was gentle and demure, was also stomping her feet anxiously. She did not have much impression of Song Huawu. After all, she had only met her once. However, Jin Beibei and Xiao Xiao were different. Of the two of them, one was Cheng Menjing's cousin, and the other was Xiaochen's younger sister. Usually, they held them in their hands, afraid that they would fall, and held them in their mouths, afraid that they would melt. If something happened to these two young ladies, wouldn't Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing's hearts ache to death? Jingxian, don't worry too much. They are both staying in the Hong family and never leaving. I've also sent out the Hong Shadow Guardians to protect them. After comforting Shen Jingxian, Hongzhu lowered his head and hesitated for a moment. Then he said solemnly, in fact, I came to you today for another important matter. What is it? Shen Jingxuan's head was filled with the safety of Xiao Chen and Jin Beibei. Her heart was burning with anxiety. She did not notice Hongzhu's face and simply asked casually. Jingxian, do you still remember the world of immortal cultivators that I mentioned to you before? Hongzhu hesitated for a moment and summoned his courage to say, right now, there is a way to enter the world of immortal cultivators. It is a great opportunity for you, wait a moment. Before Hongzhu finished, Shen Jingxian frowned and did not want to listen to him anymore. What does it have to do with me whether or not I can enter the world of immortal cultivators? Shouldn't the most important thing right now be to find Xiao Chen and then bring him out of the inner martial arts world safely together with Jin Beibei and the rest of them? Shen Jingxian was usually very strict with her upbringing, and she was a kind person who would never rashly interrupt others when they were talking. If it were not for the fact that she was really in a hurry and Hongzhu had suddenly brought up a completely unrelated matter, she would not have so rashly objected. Let me finish first. Naturally, Hongzhu understood Shen Jingxuan's anxiety. Therefore, he did not feel offended. Instead, he waved his hands and explained patiently, with our current abilities and information channels, it is very difficult to find out Xiao Chen's whereabouts, let alone rescue him. Do you agree with that? Shen Jingxian nodded helplessly. She secretly hated herself for not being strong enough. Otherwise, she would not have been trapped here and could only wait for Hongzhu to bring her bad news. Chapter 1142. But right now, we have a chance, or to be more precise, you have a chance. Hongzhu said solemnly, as long as you're willing to help open the secret passage to the cultivation world, you'll have a chance to raise your strength to a higher realm before that happens. You might even become a venerable expert. I believe you understand what it means to become a venerable expert, right? Of course I understand. Once I become a martial honor, I will have a greater chance of finding Xiao Chen. Shen Jingxian nodded. After pondering for a moment, she asked doubtfully, but there are still some things I'm not very clear about. Firstly, why am I the only one who can open the secret passage? Actually, I don't know much about the cultivation world. I only know that my clan has always emphasized that only young women with spiritual energy can successfully open the door to the cultivation world. Hongzhu paused for a moment, then added, but because no one has ever tried this method before, there may be risks involved. Of course, there is also a chance that nothing will happen. No one knows for sure. So that's how it is. Then what do you mean by becoming a martial venerable? Shen Jingxian frowned slightly and asked again, and from what you've said, it doesn't seem like there's a 100% chance of success. If you agree to open the passage, I will send you to a secret realm in the inner martial arts world in advance. Hongzhu continued to explain, this secret realm is called the Martial Honor Secret Realm and it only opens once every few years. Not long from now, it will be the day it opens. You can quickly cultivate in this secret realm and attempt to break through to the martial honor realm. Of course, there may also be risks during this period, so I want you to make this decision yourself. After saying that, Hongzhu sighed softly. Since he had already chosen not to hide anything, he might as well tell Shen Jingxian everything he knew and let her make the decision. In Hongzhu's view, opportunity and risk always coexisted. If Shen Jingxian was willing to participate, he could send her to the Venerate secret realm to cultivate. If she did not agree, he would have no choice but to find another suitable candidate. If he really could not find anyone, then Hongzhu would have to go himself. So that's how it is. If I can break through to the martial venerable realm, I might be able to find Xiao Chen and save him from his enemies. Shen Jingxian murmured. She had mixed feelings in her heart. Recalling everything that Xiao Chen had done for her and the Shen family in the past, Shen Jingxian could not help but feel a knot in her stomach. Her emotions surged as she stood in the courtyard in a daze. Her white dress fluttered even though there was no wind, outlining her beautiful figure. She was indeed very eager to increase her strength and go to the inner martial arts world to rescue Xiao Chen. However, she was also very clear that it was just as Hongzhu had said. If she wanted to quickly increase her strength, she would definitely have to pay a huge price. Since that was the case, she had to think it through in advance. Shen Jingxian felt that she was the only person who had a chance to help Xiao Chen at present. If she were to throw her life away because of this matter, then all her previous efforts would have been for naught. Seeing that Shen Jingxian had sunk into deep thought, Hongzhu did not rush her. Instead, he stood quietly to the side and waited. After all, this matter concerned Shen Jingxuan's own safety. She would definitely need some time to consider it. Hongzhu did not think that he would be able to obtain an answer immediately, so he had already made preparations. It would not matter even if he had to wait for a few days. Shen Jingxian suddenly took a deep breath. She understood very well what the risk that Hongzhu had mentioned earlier meant. However, to her, Xiao Chen was an existence that surpassed friendship, love, and family. If she chose not to take this risk because she was afraid of failure, she would not be able to forgive herself. All right. I promise you. Then let's go now. Shen Jingxian collected her thoughts and agreed without hesitation. If she were to put herself in his shoes, Shen Jingxian felt that if Xiao Chen was in her shoes, he would definitely agree without any hesitation. So after thinking it through, she no longer hesitated. You've really thought it through? Hongzhu was slightly taken aback and subconsciously asked. She had originally thought that Shen Jingxian would need some time to consider it. She had not expected her to agree so quickly, so she could not react for a moment. As long as there's a glimmer of hope, I must give it my all. I don't want to leave any regrets in my life. Shen Jingxian nodded, her voice gentle but firm. If Xiao Chen had not helped her so much in the past, she would not have the achievements she had today. Now that she had this opportunity, she naturally had to repay him. Even if her life was in danger, she still had to press forward. All right. In that case, you should go and pack up now. I'll first escort you to the Hong family of the inner martial arts world. After that, I'll listen to Grandpa Patriarch's arrangements. Hongzhu nodded as he understood Shen Jingxuan's determination. All right, then wait for me. When the time comes, I'll have to rely on you to stay with the Hong family. Shen Jingxian smiled sweetly, turned around and walked towards her room. Stunned by Shen Jingxuan's smile, Hongzhu only regained his senses after a long time. Looking at her graceful back as she walked away, Hongzhu secretly said in his heart, Jingxian, thank you. I admit that I'm a coward, I don't have the courage to shoulder the heavy responsibility of the family, and I even wanted to push this responsibility onto you. Thank you for agreeing to me. I'll pray day and night that you and the others can safely complete the mission and successfully rescue Xiao Chen. Early the next morning, Hongzhu secretly sent Shen Jingxian to the Hong family of the inner martial world. She did not report it to Grandfather Patriarch immediately. Instead, she let her reunite with Jin Beibei and the other women. She also specifically told Hong Yingui to let them stay alone for a few days and report it to the family patriarch later. Jin Beibei and the others were naturally very happy to see Shen Jingxian. After arranging everything properly, Hongzhu left silently again and went to the secular world to meet Li Xiener, preparing to continue looking for new women with spiritual qi. While everyone was worried about Xiao Chen, he had already successfully returned to the Jia family with Xingqing Menjing, and the other women were finally relieved. On one hand, it was because Xiao Chen had returned safe and sound. On the other hand, it was because they had kept it a secret from Jia Muzhen for a few days. As a result, even Jia Muzhen was a little suspicious. If Xiaochen had not returned, they would not have known what excuse they could find to continue deceiving him. Now that he had returned safe and sound, Xiaochen did not hide it anymore. He told Jia Muzhen everything. "Xiaochen, you are really something. You actually went to Open Heaven Gate to rescue people alone. How can you be so bold?" After learning that Xiaochen had gone to Open Heaven Gate, Jia Muzhen also broke out in a cold sweat. He said with some dissatisfaction, "Why didn't you tell me in advance? I could have sent some people to help you. If something had happened to you, wouldn't I have been scolded by my grandfather?" Chapter 1143. "Oh, I was afraid that you wouldn't be at ease, so I didn't let Menjing and the others tell the truth." Xiaochen shrugged and explained with a cheeky smile, "Besides, your guards aren't as strong as me. It's more convenient for me to move alone." "You." Jia Muzhen glared and was about to get angry when Xiaochen waved his hand and said with a smile, "All right, don't be angry. Awaken Gate isn't a scary place with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. That Situ Chitian wanted to make me stay, but didn't he let me leave smoothly? I even stabbed him with my flying sword." Although he felt that it was a little tricky at that time, Xiaochen thought about it in hindsight and felt that Awaken Gate was nothing more than that. Even the sect leader, Situ Chitian, wasn't that powerful. However, what Xiaochen didn't know was that Situ Chitian didn't want to kill him because he was afraid of harming the innocent. That was why he chose not to make a move. Otherwise, he might not be able to return safely with that Xing chick. It can't be, right? Is that true?" Jia Muzhen was stunned when he heard that. He had a look of surprise on his face. "Not only did you encounter Situ Chitian, but you also injured him?" "Yes. Actually, it's nothing much. I thought I could directly kill him with my flying sword." Xiaochen curled his lips and shook his head regretfully. "Unfortunately, I only stabbed him between the eyebrows and bled a little. What a big loss. I didn't expect it, really didn't expect it. I heard that his strength has improved greatly in recent years, and he's almost unrivaled in the inner martial arts world. There are even very few people who can last more than 3 moves in his hands." Jia Muzhen looked at Xiaochen as if he was looking at a monster and asked in amazement, "I didn't expect him to actually suffer a big loss in your hands. It's simply incredible. How did you do it?" Although he always felt that Xiaochen's strength was unfathomable, he didn't expect it to be so heaven-defying. That was the leader of the inner martial arts world's demonic sects, the sect leader of Awaken Gate. "Oh, it was like this at the time." Xiaochen spread his hands and described the process of going to Open Heaven Gate. After listening to Xiaochen's experience, Jia Muzhen was speechless. This guy wanted to kill a venerable expert, and it felt like it was as easy as eating and drinking. Jia Muzhen could not help but secretly rejoice. Fortunately, Xiaochen was on his side. Otherwise, not to mention the 3 big families, even the entire martial arts world would not be enough for him. "Alright, the story is over. Do you have anything else to say?" "If there's nothing else, I'm going to rest. It's quite tiring to fly all the way back." Xiaochen stood up and stretched lazily. He felt that the long and arduous journey on his flying sword was even more tiring than fighting Situ Chitian. Yes, I really have something to talk to you about." Jia Muzhen seemed to have woken up from a dream. Only now did he remember that he had something serious to talk to him about. "What is it?" Xiaochen yawned. Little Miss Xing had already gone to rest with Tian Suruan. He also wanted to lie down and sleep immediately. Looking at the sky outside, Jia Muzhen said, "There's still some time. Go take a bath and rest for a while. Tonight, the Jia family will be hosting a banquet. The important figures of the other 2 big families will be attending." Grandfather told me that I must invite you because you are now our Jia family's distinguished guest. You must attend. Oh. What banquet? Even the people of the other two big families are coming. It seems to be quite grand. Are they here to discuss the venerable mystic realm? Xiaofan asked subconsciously. To be able to gather all the people of the three big families at the same time, only the matter of the venerable mystic realm would have such great charm. Didn't that Situ Chitian also not make a big fuss about it because of this matter? That's right. It's an exchange banquet for the venerable mystic realm that is about to open. Jia Muzin nodded his head with a somewhat disdainful expression. The other two big families want to take this opportunity to build a good relationship with our Jia family. When the time comes, some people from the inner martial arts world will also come. Actually, they just want to curry favor with the Jia family. They want to get more spiritual jades back so that when the mystic realm opens, they can exchange for a few more spots. Jia Muzin felt very helpless. Although he didn't like this kind of social interaction from the bottom of his heart, as the successor of the Jia family, he had to attend this kind of occasion. I think they are not here to curry favor with the Jia family. They are mainly here to curry favor with you. Because after a period of time, you will become the official patriarch of the Jia clan. It is normal for those people to rack their brains to curry favor with you. Xiaofan laughed and patted Jia Muzin's shoulder as he teased him. Xiaofan also didn't like this kind of occasion. However, since Jia Muzin had spoken, he naturally couldn't not go. Hee, who cares about them? By the way, the banquet starts at 7 o'clock. At that time, someone will come to take you there. I should also go prepare. I don't know many people who will come this time, so I have to look at their photos first to avoid making a fool of myself. Jia Muzin smiled bitterly and said goodbye to Xiaofan. He turned around and walked to Jia Jinian's study room. Xiaofan shook his head and sighed. He could understand Jia Muzin's difficulties very well. All big families were basically like this. Although he was a good-for-nothing in the Xiao family, he also had a lot of social interaction. He also had to pretend to be a playboy all the time. Although he was very resistant in his heart, he could only pretend on the surface. Otherwise, it was still a question whether he could live until now. Xiaofan casually cleaned up and didn't bother to sleep. In the blink of an eye, it was almost 7 o'clock. He was not in a hurry to attend the banquet. Instead, he first took the control token to Tang Tang's place. He asked Cheng Menjing and the other girls to help her change into suitable clothes. Then, he took them to the banquet together. When Xiao Chen and the others arrived at the banquet hall, it was already 7:30. People from other families and sects had already arrived. However, those people didn't seem to care much about Xiao Chen, who came late. They casually glanced at him and then turned their eyes away. They basically surrounded Jia Muzin with a warm smile on their faces. They were bustling in line waiting to talk to the future Jia family head. Anyway, flattery didn't cost money. These people simply bombarded Jia Muzin with a lot of words. From the extraordinary destiny to the secret love of a little girl, they pulled out all kinds of words from Jia Muzin. Jia Muzin basically could only stare and smirk, completely unable to answer. On the other hand, no one paid attention to Xiao Chen. He was very leisurely. He took a few girls to pick something to eat, drank some red wine infused with vitality, admired the food, and chatted about all kinds of things. Xiao Chen liked this kind of leisurely feeling very much. He didn't have to be tired like Jia Muzin, who forced a smile, and didn't have to think about how to participate in the struggle of the big families and sections. It was enough to just chat happily, eat and drink. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.